I'm good. I was just talking to the people on here because I'm like, it's. I mean, I have to have like 5 backup channels. It's crazy.
I know.
How do you do it?
So, I don't know if you've done live with other people before. So we're only unfortunately going to see our own comments, so we don't get to see. So if you see like a cool question on your side,
Yes.
let me
Deal.
know and I'll do the same because I can't see the same questions as you.
Yeah. What's up with that? We need to
I know,
fix
right?
that.
I know. And the only other way you can do it is if you come on as a guest, but then you're like all small and pixelated
Yeah. I
and
don't want to
yeah.
be tiny.
Yeah,
Don't
no.
shrink me. It'll be like that
um,
picture of Joe Biden and the Carters where they were like this big and the Bidens were huge. Bad Photoshop.
all right, we have some people coming in. Hi guys. Oh wow, from Fiji. That's
Is this your
awesome.
first channel or your second one?
So this is my real main channel. I do have a backup. So I've only been officially banned once because
Yeah.
after that I changed my content.
It's hard. It's so hard to know. Like my other ones that like I'm a fireman. I've been a firefighter paramedic for 15 years. I think
Wow.
that videos that are banned from a month ago. That's why why I'm banned right now is like a videos from March.
So you guys, as you're coming in on my side, so this is Jake's other account. You probably actually follow his main, but so I'm sure you recognize him from his main, but go and follow also his new account. So for me, the thing where I got so many violations and they banned me and they said that they were going to take the account down was anything that was connected to public figures. So now that I pretty much talk more about like theories involving not specific celebrities or anything, then it's been fine. So, yeah. What I ended up getting my account banned for though was I actually had all the receipts and all the proof, and it was actually true. And I had the sources from mainstream media, but they ended up saying it was disinformation. So,
Yeah, it's crazy, and I get mad because as a dude, I don't know how old you are. We're probably the same age or so. I'm 35,
yeah, I'm
and
30.
you're 33.
Mhm.
Dude, I was so sure I was gonna die at 33 just because like it's just this crazy number and people are like obsessed with it, and I'm like, everything was so crazy when I was 33, but I'm
I know they
35
say that's
now.
your Jesus year.
It is that, but you know what? Probably like you, I feel like 33 was the year that um, you kind of do become resurrected into this world through an ego death or even a death of your past versions of yourself. And a lot of us, I think, have hit our stride in the last couple years because I'm a clutch player. I'm a back seat, back of the bus boy, back of the class guy. And because I was always bored. But now
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. Now the stakes are high and I love it.
Yeah, I felt a lot of things changed for me at 33. Just as far as like, I didn't really think that I was going to be doing a TikTok. I didn't think that this was what was going to happen. It was just a little challenge that me and my friends did. We were like, it'd be pretty funny if we made TikToks and all posted on TikTok. And then it just ended up happening. So I'm glad that it did.
Well, and you're great at it. Like you're one of the first people when I've been doing podcasts and everything on YouTube for years, but I never like you like TikTok. It's nothing but people doing little dances and like lip syncing. Nothing that I want to do. And once I started getting in here, you were one of the first people that people started mentioning. Like, yo, look at her stuff. Check her out. I talked to Max Powers. I watched you guys the other night too. Him, I can't wait to talk to him. Alex Serves Tea. I know you linked up with her.
Yeah, we
So
went
I
to
think
San Diego to meet up. It was
that's so
fun.
cool. Tell me about it.
Oh, it was great. It was me, Alex Serves Tea, and Road to Roses. And we literally talked nonstop for like 24 hours straight until like early in the morning, and then woke up early in the morning to continue up until the time that Road to Roses went back on the plane.
That's
And it was cool
awesome. Yeah,
because
you
we're all
guys are
kind
like
of have.
the girl Avengers, you know? It's like your
It's
little
true.
superheroes of truth. And me, I one of the reasons why I was happy that we connected too was um you know how hard it is in a platform filled with mostly like half naked people and people pushing the worst side of culture. um I love seeing someone succeed that is speaking truth and that doesn't have to sell themselves. They can just sell the truth. And
And I
there's
think it's
no,
changing for sure
it
because
is.
I feel like I don't see too much of that on TikTok. It's not like Instagram. Like, oh my God, Instagram is just like the worst. And
Yeah.
I mean, even right now, like, I'll still use my Instagram to like post pictures and stuff. But like, when I go click through my stories, I'm like, oh my God, you guys are addicted to the news. You do exactly what the news wants you to do. It's so much. I'm like, I get
They support
exhausted.
everything. I support it. I wanted to make a t-shirt that just says like I identify. I mean, no matter what's going on, it's like, and I say that to my TikTok. I'm like, TikTok, I identify as like non-binary spiritual eternal being living in a false matrix paradigm. Don't censor me, TikTok. I'm oppressed already. They don't listen.
So,
What's
one thing that has come up a few times this week that I want to see what you thought about, it's an old thing, but it keeps coming up for me this week. So you remember in 2015, the whole thing with the dress. I feel like the dress was
Yes.
kind of the beginning of the timeline split. And so I was on the phone with my friend, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well, it was two different pictures, right?" And I'm like, "There might have been other pictures. I saw both dresses from the same picture." And then someone just commented too on one of my videos, mentioned the dress, and then someone's like, "Yeah, well, that was two different pictures. They were just tricking people." And I'm like, "They were there probably was multiple pictures. However, me looking at the same picture, I was at work when it happened, and me and my coworker started arguing about it because I saw white and gold, he saw black and blue. And as we were arguing, and I'm like, well, why does everyone that sees black and blue, why are you guys all trolls? You're probably just trolling. And as we started arguing, and then I looked back at it, I saw black and blue for a second. And then he thought I was trolling him. And it was like, I felt like because I got like angry at him, I saw the dress a different color. And then I've been thinking about it and I'm like, I wonder if maybe people that saw like white and gold or black and blue are actually we're splitting onto two different timelines.
It's very bizarre, and I work with a bunch of dudes every third day as a fireman, like the same dudes all the time. So when things like that come up, I'll show the same picture on my phone to me and other, 10 other people. So, and those little Snopes fact checks are
Oh
always
God, I
like
hate
the
Snopes.
Mandela effect. They're post haste, and then they say like there's two different things. Obviously, it's like, but I showed everybody one picture. So whatever you're saying is a fact check truth, but it's like the ministry of truth. They're mistruths, and they cover one lie with another. And so, in my opinion, with this stuff, it does boil back down to CERN. It does boil back down to
Mhm.
two timelines, multiple timelines. It also, I, I think we're in a time now of sifting as opposed to like a shifting. We're never gonna like
Mhm.
fucking vibrate off of here into some little golden earth. Not going to happen. This is a realm of soul progression. It's like a soul simulator in this place. Um,
I
but the
do believe we
sifting,
are going to shift to another dimension, though. I do believe that it will be an actual shift.
well, so the shift, in my opinion, the sifting, and it goes back to these dresses and these, all of our, most everything we've been experiencing is through 20 decibels with our ears, 20/20 vision here. And after 2020, especially, these things seem to have accelerated, like whether you want to call them star seeds, indigo children. Dolores Cannon would say, like, the next wave of volunteers. Um, color is nothing but frequency and vibration. I think that we are unlocking certain parts of our latent ancestral DNA, certain genetic
Mhm.
codes. Some people would call those light codes. I know our pineal gland is a piezoelectric device that, when it's compressed through meditation and hallucinogenics, you can access different frequencies and vibrations, hence different colors. Where when you reached a lower vibrational state, you can only tune in to the lower colors on the vibrational frequency scale. And when you are in a higher state, you could see those brighter colors like the whites and the pinks and the golds.
Mhm.
So I think that it's both. It's like we will have to live in whatever new world we're going to ascend to, because dimensions are nothing but concepts, and they change with the language and the times and the laws. So eventually, because the fourth dimension is time, I believe the fifth dimension will be some type of spiritual one that's included, a
Yeah.
type of ether, where we can truly get past these black mirrors that we're using.
I believe it. Have you heard of this experiment that they did that basically they went to this like indigenous tribe that is still very secluded from modern civilization, and they have no word for the color blue. So they showed them basically a bunch of pictures of green, and one of them was blue, and they asked them to identify which one was different, and they couldn't see which one was different.
Hmm.
But then they have like over a dozen different words for the color green. So they showed them a bunch of colors of green, and then one was like slightly different. And I saw what they did, and I couldn't tell which one was different. They all looked the same to me. And immediately they were able to pick out the one that was a slightly different green. So then it makes me think about a lot of people who've been abducted or things like that sometimes talk about that they see colors that they can't describe, that they have no words for. So it makes you think about like a certain part of evolution. Did we start to see blue and we used to not see blue before? And then, but then you think about, I was thinking about it and I'm like, there's a lot of things that we see from ancient cultures that are obviously blue skinned gods. In ancient Egypt, there's a lot of blue. So I wonder if they were seeing blue at that time and then it dipped. People weren't able to see blue after that until modern times.
Yeah, I think that that's very possible. It's also possible that the sky, we know that's blue because of supposedly the nitrogen. That there's a time before the moon. There was a time where maybe Mars was, and Saturn was the dark father, Kronos, and he was the sun. I think a lot of those things change. That's why they do the great resets every 200 years, wipe out the indigenous cultures. They call the original peoples the aborigines, which means like
Mm-hmm.
take away, get away from here. You're not the originals. And just like you're seeing now with this 1984 cancel culture, the censoring of our own language, you and I, because we speak against Big Brother and these controllers, we have to self censor even. And now those
Oh,
self
yeah.
censoring whittles down our ability to express ourselves. It whittles down our whole concept of reality. So even if we do see a brighter blue, our culture tells us it's just freaking blue.
Mm,
So to me, it's like
true.
our indoctrination that people are like, it's a ball. We live on a globe. And I'm like, bro, we could be in a Minecraft game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gets so
Mm-hmm.
strange. You know this when you look into the fabric of our reality, and people think they have it all figured out because of what they learned in third grade.
Oh my God, I know. Literally, like we learned colors when we were like 3, 4 years old. And it's like we're still there as far as that goes. We're like, that's it. This is blue. And you're right. We could possibly be seeing like different shades of these colors, but because we don't really have like the words for it yet, we're not really identifying if people are seeing different ranges of these colors.
It's just like our ideas. You and I, what I think is so important about this is a dialogue, like a true Plato's Republic, a dialogue where you and I are sparring with words and ideas. And I know you know this, when you start making content, you become more refined. Your words, you
Mm,
know how to captivate people better. That's what rhetoric is in general. That's what a lot of those evil evangelical types will use to indoctrinate, to fleece their flock and get them to pay the church, Joel Osteen types, because the more you speak, the better you get at it. And
mm-hmm.
you and I know more words in regards to the Maya, this illusion of a reality, than most people do. And the people that watch our videos in the comments and all the people that we are friends with and interact with, I believe, are the reason why they want to cancel the cultures. The reason why they want to censor the internet is because we are subverting everything. Those, like, language is an alien control structure. Period.
Mm. And I mean, too, with the stuff with language, like when you look into like how basically all of language is just spells,
Yep.
and that stuff is really crazy. Like
It's
they
my
talk about
favorite.
like, I know it's crazy. Me and Parapsych Talk Max, we were talking about that the other day with one of these political issues that I'm not going to talk about because I don't want us both getting banned. But one of these political
I'm already
issues that are
banned.
happening right now, um, we were talking about it, and one of the people in this famous case that's in the public right now is not the person's real name. And I'm like, wow. So we start looking into the meanings of those words, and we're like, wow, this whole thing is a freaking spell, is a spell on humanity.
It's just like
And
the
they
O.J.
talk
Simpson
about like
trial.
the word, like, even grammar comes from grimoire, which is a freaking spell book. Spelling. It's like
Yep.
every single thing. Like when you really look into the definition of words, you can see what they're trying to basically control. And now that we know that words create your reality, most likely this is some type of hologram. So we're constantly shaping the hologram. Oh, thanks for this little
I
cute
didn't know
thing.
you could see those. Like, I thought maybe I could only see them. You're right. And I think so. There's this, I have a book here I could show you, but there's this guy named Anatoly Fomenko. A lot of these Russians over there, they are tied to a theory called mud flood. Mud flood is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's
I
one of the
haven't.
most important theories in the last couple years. And it's about, ancient cultures, ancient advanced civilizations, and these cyclical resets around the 1800s. But what's very strange, when you look into all of these different chronologies, the fact that we are on the Gregorian calendar, which was given to us by the Roman Catholic Church in the year like 725 AD on April Fool's Day. They switch us from the Julian calendar. They change the months. All of this shit is different. But the English language, what's bizarre is when you go back and you look in like the 1500s, English comes from Anglish, the Anglo-Saxons. The word
Mm.
Anglo comes from angel. Angel also translates to alien. The angels, the English, are the fallen angels. We know that Lucifer, that's why they sell their soul to the devil for music, is because he was God's leader of the chorus in worship. Um, that's why he still runs those contracts. But this English language that has all the spells, all the curse words, the English language that most of it was given to us by a pen name, William Shakespeare. And there is a
Mm.
William Shakespeare in every language at the same time. It's Tolstoy
Wow.
in France, or no, it's Victor Hugo in France. It's Tolstoy in Russia. He's the one who wrote like War and Peace. It's Shakespeare for the English language, and they were all around the same time. It's just like how the things that we look into, these Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi scriptures, were all found in 1945, the same time as Israel, same
Mm.
time as World War II.
Wow, same time that the aliens made treaties with the governments.
Exactly, because there are all
Wow.
these little scripts and narratives that they place in every pocket of every book that's ever been controlled. We're putting all of our stuff on a digital library of Alexa right now, and they will burn it all down and reset us because nobody's writing anything in stone.
I know my friend talks about that too, is that like when everything became like digitized from books, how they put it on Kindle, and Kindle
Mhm.
means fire, and it's the modern day book burning.
Isn't it
I'm like,
so crazy?
it really is. Like, really, they're always telling us what's
Yep.
really going on.
They really are.
It's
It's
real.
just Babylon, Babel. And even like one thing I recently came across because I heard it and I'm like, I gotta look into this. All of our milk in America, it comes from two bulls. Two bulls I guess, populated 98% of our cows in America. And there
Wow.
people are like, that's not good. They're all inbred. Like they all come from two bulls. What else is two bulls? A bi bull. A bi bull is two bulls. Tubal
Mm,
Cain was a blacksmith in the Bible, descendant of Cain. The first symbol that these aliens showed up with, when you go back to those Zulu tribes, on their shoulder was the mark of Cain. It was a red cross. The
mm,
Rosicrucians, the red cross who gets the blood, um, they took that and made it the crucifixion, and then they gave it to people to
mm,
worship after they killed their savior on it. Um, it's also Rothschild is a red shield. So
mm, mm.
it's everything,
Wow.
and it all. But I believe that Cain, the descendants, the line of Cain, is it's the aliens. It's the reptilian weird shit that people want to.
Or at least, yeah, the
It's a hard
negative
pill to swallow,
aliens.
but it's like something's going on.
Yeah, and exactly the negative aliens, because we do also have probably majority of aliens are good, but they're not breaking the rules by coming here and interfering with stuff. They're just watching from a distance, like, come on, figure this out, guys.
They're doing what we're doing with humanity. We're watching from a distance and trying our best to influence them to make their own choices because we understand free will, because ours always
Hmm.
gets violated. Um, so that's exactly it's. All of these are hermetic principles, ancient philosophies, as above, so below. And if it's like our concept of ourselves is the closest approximation to our concept of God. And if you don't
Hmm.
believe in yourself, I guarantee you don't believe in God.
It's true. And exactly, like, really, like, healing yourself and all of that is how we're going to change the world, change the universe, change the evolution of the universe, is really through healing yourself. And it's like, that's why this whole cancel culture is not going to work. It's not going to make changes in the world, because it's never looking inward. It's never like, wow, why did that person's action make me feel this way? It's, you're bad, you need to be stopped, you need to be, silenced, you need to have your job taken away. They always go for your job first. And it's like, these are like the things that people come for, and it's like, cancel culture is not going to improve anything. All it does is just flip the roles, and that's what we're used to, is that, like, okay, the good guy becomes the bad guy and the bad guy becomes the good guy, and they
Mhm.
just keep flipping it, which has been the same agenda for a long
Yep.
time.
Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. And I tell people all the time, it's the only reason why we have Biden is because they gave us Trump. And the only reason why we're going to get Trump again is because they fucking gave us Biden. Like they flip, like you're saying, they flip so many people, polarize them and then they're
Mm-hmm.
like, here's two evils, choose the lesser. And it's like,
I
I don't want
know.
to choose evil.
It's so ridiculous. It's like, you have one side that thinks they're the good guys, and the other side that just is like, well, lesser of two evils. And it's like, you know, it's
They
so
must be terrible.
ridiculous.
Those Every one of them has to be in a miserable relationship.
Oh,
Like they're
yeah.
just like, it's better than being single. I'll be with this abusive person because that's their relationship with the government.
Exactly. I know the type of person who says, like, oh, let's vote for the lesser of two evils. It's like, okay, yeah, let's see who you marry.
Yeah,
Someone you
exactly.
probably hate, who is a good place to settle.
Definitely.
It's so
They're the
nuts.
ones who put on the masks and the ones who I call them the Shotzi, but they're the ones who would put on the uniforms and round us up. It's like, do you remember this movie called The Fifth Wave?
I don't think so. I don't think I've heard of it.
It's not a very good one. It was a book, but I forget who was in it. I want to say it was like that chick Kate Winslet was one of the bad guys in it. But they get a parasite that looks a lot like this Hydra vulgaris, like the Hydras in Marvel comics, like the Hydras that people were seeing in these vials. And it goes in their brains. They think there's an alien invasion. So these humans are killing all these other humans that are aliens. But in the end of it, you find out that this parasite is the real alien, and it infects humans to believe other people are aliens. The real humans they think are aliens, so they're killing all the humans, but it's really this parasite. And it's the same shit I think is going to happen with zombies. I don't know if there'll be zombies, but when you see the shit in China, it's like they're programming the other side to believe that we are less than human, that we are dangerous like zombies, that our saliva will give them a virus, that they need to round us up. I think that's why zombies are in our collect. Like, there's 5 choices on our programming for the future, and that's one of them, zombies. Aliens is another.
I mean, I only believe in one future timeline, and I believe it without a doubt. I believe in the new Earth. So I'm like, you know what? The New World Order timeline, I'm never going to perceive it. It's impossible for me to perceive it. Although I see all the programming that is getting people to create that reality through the movies, through TV, through the media, the news, all of it. But it's like, that's also why I've actually stopped watching a lot of just everything. I watch, obviously, informational stuff. But as far as like movies and stuff, like when Squid Games came out, I was like, nah, I'm done. I don't consent to this anymore. Like, I'm not going to watch this.
I watched it, but I love my Asian
It was a true story
because there's so much truth in them. And people are like, do you believe that they would do that? It's like, that's exactly what the movie Hostel was based on truth. That's what they do in these places.
And exactly, too. It's like people, Sophia, who is Astral Assassin 101 on TikTok, she talks about like writers are remote viewers without realizing. And I've experienced that through meditation. Like there's literally things that I saw years ago in meditation and wrote down and was like, I got this great idea. This is the best thing I've ever thought of. And then literally it comes true within a couple years, which is also how like, I believe the whole Simpsons thing is happening, is that they're putting it into the collective. And then basically it's being manifested into reality as opposed to like they're time travelers or something like that,
Yeah, they say supposedly Matt Groening has the Yellow Book, which is a similar version to Looking Glass. In my opinion, I do know that Matt Groening, and even if you go look at like how he spells thing, I'm pretty sure he puts his E's backwards like a 3, like 33, because he's a 33rd degree Freemason like Walt Disney was. So, in my opinion, fiction and art create reality. Reality imitates art. They try to tell us it's the other way around, so we don't pay attention to the art because the art becomes the culture, and the culture creates the cults, and the cults become the religions, and the religions become law. There is no separation of church and state. They don't give a shit. They put their hand on whatever Biden swears on a Bible and all that stuff. Me, I'm ready for the New World Order. I'm ready to fight it. That's why I'm here. I'm not going to turn this world
You're
over.
Going into that timeline fighting.
For my kids. Yeah, but see, I like that. I've been a boxer my whole life. I'm a firefighter. I'm here to run into a burning building. That's what I signed up for in my job. And that's what I signed up for in my spirit and my template on this earth. But I do love the whole Dolores Cannon. I'm sure that if you are
that's
a fan,
my thing.
Yeah, and I believe that she is probably the most legit channeler ever. Maybe one of the only authentic ones.
She never channeled any of the information herself, which I also like. Even though I love channeled information, I read so much of it. But always with channeled information, there's always that little part of my mind that is like, I really resonate with this. But as I know, I've known a lot of people who have been channelers in real life, and over time, the information can become, tainted. And I've had a lot of friends who are psychics and stuff. And basically over the years, I've noticed sometimes they get information that I know is for sure wrong. and I feel it in my heart that it's wrong. So that's why I love Dolores, because it was always coming through other people, and she used thousands of different people and lined up what everyone else was getting in their hypnosis. So that's why I really love her work.
Me too. And because she was, that's why they call TVs programs and then channels. Because even what you do, you have a TikTok channel, you're channeling information. And that's why I believe Dolores Cannon, she is almost a female version of like one of my favorites is Carl Jung, because he did a similar thing, but with psychology, in-depth psychology, imagery, alchemy, archetypes. And she did it with these downloads, these experiences, which is the psyche. Is all of these things happen in some imaginal psychological realm, the same place that a hallucination would happen. And she was able to channel that information into a cogent philosophy, and able to communicate it and like write it in books and put it forward with her discernment was her channel, in my opinion. Like, she was so pragmatic in her approach that like it took many people saying the same thing for her to even be like, yes, this is. And that's the same thing with Carl Jung. It's like these things that all of us experience, and that's why when people come across Dolores Cannon, it just resonates because it's a part of all of us.
It's true. And I know some people don't like her, but that's also like how kind of everything is, because there's a lot of people that are generally like very well loved in the spiritual community that I don't really resonate with. So I'm like, I get it. I mean, even too, I've been going through the law of one, and I believe it's good information, but I have mixed feelings, as I'm reading it, I feel like typically when I read channeled information, I feel love coming through the words. In the law of one, I don't. And I don't know if
it's a computer. It's a supercomputer they're talking to. That's the Dolores Cannon talks about that sometimes, and it's like, she talks about us waves of volunteers, and that's where it gets weird into the simulation thing, where it's like, in my opinion, the simulation gives way more credence, in a God simulation, a truly divine simulation. It gives credence in proof, evidence towards a new Earth, a new simulation, a new level. Like, we're gonna go from Mario on Super Nintendo to Mario on like GameCube. It's going to be amazing. And I think that a simulation that's possible, you update the code.
You program it from the inside. That's how you don't break the law of interference.
Yes, we create it, we manifest it.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer of it, because we see manifestations happening all the time, so it's like, why manifest less than the greatest future? Why not manifest the future where everyone who wants to live, and I think it's not a coincidence that this like saying is very popular now, like living my best life. Like, I also think that that's something that is like subconsciously like the truth. We are living our best lives, and we're creating that, so I'm like, I like that a lot of these things, sometimes you say things casually and then years later realize that like you were saying that because you were programming your life to become that. And I've had that happen so many times. So I'm like, when I hear people saying like, oh, I'm living my best life, I'm like, okay, yes, we are. The new Earth is coming.
Yes. But that's the other thing about like Dolores Cannon is, look at your aura, like, or whatever, just your light. When you come across that and you integrate that into your own life, it gives you a better shine. It gives you a clearer perspective and a better understanding to a soul's growth and a soul's their decisions, what they decided to learn, why they're here, and we're all here. And through reflection, meditation, and through getting into these deeper hidden texts, you realize that these are the ideas of eternity. Is like, where are we? What is this? Where am I going? What is it all for? Who the fuck made it? Like, what are you, dude? I mean, I look at you, I'm like, what are you, dude? Like, okay, I know I am, but it's not a simulation because what are you? You know? So,
Exactly. And that's the part that gets a little, if you think about it too much, it gets a little like trippy. So Marina Jacobi, I don't know if you've ever followed her work. She's on YouTube and she channels from Pleiadians, and she basically like focuses on quantum structure. And when I first started watching her work, I was like, I don't get it, but I'm going to keep watching. And then over time, you really start to get it. It's like it goes in, but it takes a little time to process. And, one of the things that she talks about so many really interesting things too. She even talks about that, like, we're all obviously manifesting different timelines and stuff. However, she says even the dark will eventually come back and manifest the highest timeline because they'll be canceled out of the future. So they realize that they cease to exist in the future, and even the dark will eventually manifest the highest timeline in time. And she also talks about and she does these little like she does a lot of diagrams, and you need the diagrams because without the diagrams it's like half of the stuff doesn't go in. So she talks about like, because a lot of times people will ask her like, okay, well, if this is my reality, are you real? Is anyone real except for me? And so she does these like, and she's from Bulgaria, so like I just love her accent too. And she's like, it's a reality within the reality, don't you get it? So she'll like draw like a bubble and she'll like put the person in it, and then she'll do another bubble, and it's like basically everyone that we experience is actually a projection of ourself, of our own reality, but that in those other people's realities you could be a completely different person, like, so this is the reality that I'm projecting, so you're a woke person, who's awakened to the truth. But then, and it's crazy because it's like when you see it, it's like when I see the diagram in my head, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a little bubble and a bubble within the bubble. And it's just crazy to think about that, like, the whole like non-player character that everybody like says now. I love that these words are all coming into like the collective because
I
it
love it
really
too.
like shapes the truth. Because
It
you
is.
think about back in the day when there wasn't even movies or there wasn't video games, how could people understand the concept of this being a hologram or, being a video game, basically a simulation? You don't even have like the reference point, or even before
Yeah.
the movie The Matrix came out. How could anyone understand this before the movie The Matrix came out?
Yeah. I mean, it's the books that you read when you go back and you read all, especially when you awaken and you're like, holy, like people have been talking about this shit forever. But like when I started getting one of my, what we talked about earlier, language. I love language and I love language, symbol, and numbers. Those are the keys to this. Like I would love to know your life path number. I don't know what your life path number is, but mine is an 11, and it sets this template out for your life. Um, but with symbols, you start like exactly what you're saying, like without movies and everything, hieroglyphs, the people who really read hieroglyphs know that they are supposed to be read symbolically. Like a picture is worth 1,000 words. An eagle or a serpent doesn't mean just a snake. It might mean the divine feminine. It might mean
Yeah.
Enki. It might mean a bunch of different things. um, so we are getting better. That's what's hard to know, is like the internet is a terrible thing, but it's helped us bring a lot to
But it's
light. And
also
it's
the greatest thing too.
exactly so. And like what you said, where this dark eventually integrates because they realize that it's their destruction unless they integrate. And it made me, I'm like, wait, because these grays and how the grays, I've been abducted twice, but how these grays, they seem to always want genetic material. Where they work with a lot of our reproduction, and a lot of people believe they are some future timeline, some where something went wrong, like this injection that maybe makes people sterile and or messes with the genes, and they're just harvesting genes from some future timeline where they might be the ones who did it with the Draco reptilians. But they get down to the end of the line and they realize like, oh shit. So they circle back, even using
And they
those
will have
dark
to circle
technologies. Like
back
time
and
travel would be a dark technology. No good person would ever want time travel, you know?
because even if someone good wants to use time travel, they're going to go back and erase bad events. But if you erase a bad event, you erase the lessons that were all learned from it, and you regress the entire species. So it's like, and that's why a lot of times people talk about when, like, I was doing like the Mandela effect stuff. People were like, oh, well, if they can manipulate timelines, then why haven't they got rid of World War II? Why didn't they get rid of the Holocaust? And it's like, because those were important lessons for humanity. Because if we didn't learn those lessons, we would only end up doing them later. So if you erase them, it would end up happening eventually anyway, because that's part of like what people are learning to overcome, and that part of that soul journey, like people obviously, and I think too, that's the other thing too, is like with obviously the law of one is like the way they put it is great, of like service to self or service to others.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get too focused on like good and evil, it's all subjective. Like it's very subjective. And a lot of people, like, things that are, every bad thing that has ever happened to me has eventually led to something good, even if it was like, wow, it was so terrible, but it made me start to search for different answers. And then those other answers takes you on your entire path of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the best. We're as strong as what we are put up against. I have two little boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm very blessed to be a father. That's one of the only titles I'll ever wear is a father. I pretty much don't like to wear any other ones, and I like to make them strong. I make them wrestle me. I fight. I lay on them until they get almost mad and want to cry and then push me off. And I'm like, face me, dude. Like, it's just the same thing. Exactly what you said with World War II. And it's the last 2 years should teach people, if you can't stand up and say, no, thank you, I don't want that useless thing on my face, you're never going to stand up against the real guys with guns. When the real Nazis come, you're done because you didn't stand up at the grocery store to a minimum wage employee. You just didn't say, no, thank you. These are all tests. And
True.
this whole
And what's
timeline and all
happening
this
right
thing.
now with, reproductive rights, this whole conversation, it's like a lot of people right now. And I mean, I think obviously you can't decide what anyone is right for any other person. However, a lot of the people right now who are really upset, I'm
Yep.
like, what did you think was going to happen when you didn't defend people's right to their body last year? When you said it was okay for the government to tell people what was right to do with their body? Did you think that was going to end there? Did you think that that was just going to be the end and then the government was going to keep doing it? And what do you think it's going to be next year? Like, if you don't start like fighting for your rights, even if it's something that is not the choice for you, so it's like, even if there's something that I disagree with, I still defend the person's right to be able to decide that for themselves.
Absolutely. I'm a fireman, and people want it. I've been a firefighter paramedic for 15 years, since I was 20 years old. And people all of a sudden said, I shouldn't have a job and I shouldn't be a fireman anymore because I didn't get. That's fine. I will gladly walk away from this $25 an hour job. But two, I make all the decisions for you and your children, your parents, when you're unconscious and unresponsive. How do these people reason? The cognitive dissonance is insane these days, because it's just like what you're saying with my body, my choice. And then I go, but what about my body, my choice? And they're like, well, and they don't know what to do with this, and that's where they want us. Like, I believe this whole leaked, anything leaked, they're taking a piss. It's like a same thing with this channeled information. It's all garbage. It's freaking, they're just too afraid to put their name on it. So they want to just stir shit up and say, hey, I channeled something saying that Donald Trump is Jesus. And you're like, dude, come on. Just, if you want to say it, then stand behind it so we can make fun of you for it. Otherwise, don't. And these leaked opinions, I think, like what you're saying, it gets people to fight and be polarized. But ultimately, the Hegelian dialectic of those two choices are, well, it wasn't the government that made people take the Pfizer, it was companies. And it's
Mhm.
not going to be the government that's going to take away or grant your rights. It's going to be companies. Now, all of a sudden, just like people are rooting for Twitter, Jack Dorsey and Twitter is censoring everybody, rooting for it because Elon Musk is in it. Just like people believe space all of a sudden because of Elon Musk.
It's
They are going
true.
to trust these same companies, non-governmental organizations, for abortions because they
And
won't have any other
there's a
choice.
lot of people who, I just say to address this because there's a lot of people who are obviously triggered by the conversation of COVID and stuff. And it's like, the whole point of this conversation, what we just said, was that it's each person's personal choice.
Yeah.
So some people are saying, like, well, I believe in the masks, and keep saying about like
Okay.
that. And
Yeah,
it's like,
wear them. Sure.
that's exactly the point, is that each person has the right to do whatever they want. And it's really about like, okay, if you believe in it and someone that doesn't, okay. It really, like, that's the whole point, because it's like, yeah, and then not when it can harm others. Okay, then, you're obviously triggered by this conversation and maybe can't see that it's not right for people to make decisions for other people. But now we're seeing it at this level, and next year it'll be at the next level, and next year it'll be at the next level. So,
And the
I
people that
mean,
get triggered over that, there's people get really offended over their country and over their religion. These are all a process that we call the Great Reset. Someone like me has been fact checked, censored because I say something like the Great Reset that Joe Biden will say. And in order to reset our current system, we have to burn it down or tear it down. And they are tearing that down by getting rid of our faith in leaders, our faith in our countries, our faith in religions, our faith in our bodies, and our health officials, and everybody who we are supposed to get answers from, like the news guys. So when you get triggered over someone like me who has just their hand on a different part of this elephant called reality, this fucking elephant in the room, um, you you realize that when you shout and try to get people censored, it's leading towards your demise ultimately, because there will be something that you will be not okay with. So
because this is
whether
what's
it's your health,
exactly happened.
you might be
It's like,
sensitive about your diet. Some people, and it's like, or about animals. Just wait. They're
because
coming.
last year it was um, the liberals taking away a bodily right. Now this year it's conservatives taking a bodily right. And this is the exact flip that continues to happen. And at the end of the day, it's just people losing rights for
Mm-hmm.
one government, And it's like, it's the same way with like religion. They made everyone so traumatized by religion, and religion is such a divisive topic, that now, out of the 10 constitutional rights we have, nobody cares about their right to religion. And it's like, okay, people literally gave up the right to their beliefs because
Mm-hmm.
the word religion is associated with organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is just another way for, so it's like, yeah, if, I'm not a religious person, but I believe that, religious rights are important, and that they should also, spirituality and any belief should fall under religious rights, as long as it has to do with, your beliefs about life, death, your purpose.
Yeah, I just don't understand why some people get mad at me, and I'll trigger so many people when I talk about the shape of the earth too. And it's people be like, why would they lie? People who believe the whole pandemic and everything like that, okay, I get it, but I guarantee you there is something in history from some official, some administration, whether it was Trump or whoever, where they're like, they're liars. They are, I don't believe aliens, or I don't believe NASA, or I don't believe the moon landing. It's the same people. It's all the same people on the world stage. They're all at the G7 summits, like Putin, Trudeau, Zelensky, Biden, Macron. All of them were on the World Economic Forum, future global leaders with Klaus Schwab. They all ran scenarios, Trump too, his administration, in 2019 for a COVID-19 virus. I mean, these things aren't even debatable at this point. They're not even debatable. It's not even debatable. But I understand people get mad, but they
Or
don't
at
know
the end
why
of the
I'm
day,
still
it's
alive.
everyone's place to decide for themselves what they're going to believe in, the same as any other belief.
Yep. Yeah. What's your favorite? I know that people, they'll get, I do trigger people sometimes because
I know they're all real triggered over here. People
it's hard,
are real
dude.
triggered.
It's hard because, like, I'm a fireman, a firefighter paramedic in Central Florida. Okay. Like, I run calls at Disney. Disney was never a super spreader event. You triggered people. Like, Disney never was. Did the money did the money is the money an antiviral? Is money and Disney an antiviral? Is the magic an antiviral that kids can go there and everything's fine?
Oh my
No.
God.
I went
I'm about to turn off the comments, you guys, because honestly, they're so ridiculous.
Who cares?
Like,
Yeah, we'll
I'm
talk about
literally
something else then.
like, now people are like, oh, so you're touting Trump, when literally 5 minutes ago we both said that Trump was just as bad as anyone else. It's
Yeah, he
so
gave
hilarious.
them Operation Warp
It's
Speed.
like, okay, calm down, guys.
He's the reason
like,
why the vaccine came out, is Trump.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Trump is the one who, like, is responsible for the
Operation
vaccine.
Warp Speed.
Like,
Never
hello,
pardon
can
Julian
we
Assange.
stop with this divisiveness? And
Yeah,
it's literally
like,
everyone is able to make their own decisions. And this is really what it comes down to. Like, I can't tell anyone what is right or wrong. It's like,
but I can say my opinion on what I believe is right and what is wrong, and they
exactly.
shouldn't threaten
Everyone's
anybody.
entitled to that. And
Mhm.
that's like, when you attack people who are expressing their opinion, then all you do is make it harder for people to express opinions. And then that eventually will hurt you in the end, because eventually there will be that one topic that affects you personally. And it might be too late when the thing that affects you personally, it might be too late for you to speak up.
Nobody told me it was dangerous. Nobody warned me about this. I wonder why, because everybody who tried was censored and silenced.
Someone
Like,
said, you believe in universal truths. I believe truth is subjective,
yeah,
because
what is
we're
true?
each creating our own reality. So,
History is fake news in a book. History is CNN printed down. Period.
okay, opinions lead to misinformation. Okay, guy.
Yeah. Those people, I always just block. If you have moderators, I'm like, yo, once
I
somebody
know.
starts, because people will just try to bait you and try to bait you, and as soon as you say something, they're like, hate speech. It never fails. People get the world
I
works.
don't even know how to set a mod.
You just click their name.
Okay.
If you trust somebody, like, people that you like, click their name, and then up in the top it will say manage on the little right.
I see.
Click
Okay,
that and then
good.
add moderator, and then just be like, yo,
Great.
freaking regulators, mount up. Because they will.
I think I did one.
Good. Yeah, that moderator, do some work, be the muscle.
I'm gonna put a few just so it's not too much.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
have
guys.
I have like 3 or 4, and they do awesome. Because I tell them, like, these people and the ones who comment this stuff, they never
And
have
what I'm
a
saying is,
profile
like,
picture.
I'm not saying to block people who don't agree, but it's like,
I do, though. I don't, because they would block us. That's the thing, is they report us, they would block us.
okay, I have a few here. Okay, thank you, guys. But it's just like, it's okay to have a conversation. You don't have to agree with what people are saying, but why are you guys so upset that Jake is saying stuff you don't agree with?
I'll
Like,
I'll
it
make a
goes
video
both
about Trump,
ways.
and people will be like, "You had me, and then you lost me." I'm like, dude, if me
I love
pointing
when people say that. I find
yeah,
it
it's like if
hilarious.
me
I'm like,
commenting on this, if you hold my opinion in that high regard, higher than your own opinion, buddy, I don't know what to tell you.
it's so funny when people say, I was with you until you said, and it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry. You know, the reason that you go on the internet is because it's different than what's happening in your head. If you only want to hear the opinion that's in your own head, you don't need to open your phone. You could look in the mirror or you could just sit in silence.
Yeah.
So it's like part of being on the internet and following people and looking at other people's content is to see what other people think and believe. And sometimes they're going to disagree, and there's nothing wrong with people disagreeing.
Do you have any siblings?
I do.
Exactly, me too. That's what this is like, guys. You ever
Yeah, I
live with
know. You're
somebody
right.
that you're like,
Siblings teach
I hate
you.
you, I'm gonna kill you, ah! And then like you're like, what's for dinner, brother? I mean,
Exactly. The
have
whole
they never
sibling
lived with a
thing,
brother or sister?
it teaches you so much to be a sibling because
Yeah.
you realize that you're not the most important thing in the world, that you're not always going to win, you're not always going to be right, that even if you are right, it still won't matter in the end. You know, like
Yeah.
the whole sibling thing is amazing.
It is. And those people must just be very I would never want to be that fragile. Like, and I want to ask you, and we could even pivot and change that subject, but like, I understand when people get like that. I don't like it when they gaslight you, when they attack you and like go towards ad hominem attacks and they attack you and not the argument. But there were a couple arguments that I've reached where I'm like, no way, this is that. Like, no way. And one example of mine that I love that was stripped away from my heart was dinosaurs aren't real, but that's one for me. What's one for you that you were like, that's crazy, but then now you're like, might be
And
true.
even the dinosaur thing, I'm still on the fence about, because obviously what we see as dinosaurs is not what they were. They
Yeah.
literally designed those based on a couple of bones that they saw. So I don't think that dinosaurs looked like that. However, I've read so many, including Dolores's books, where she asks about dinosaurs, and they never say dinosaurs aren't real. They
Mhm.
do say there was an era of these beings that were here and that they were an important part of the evolution of the planet. Um, Also, to the flat Earth thing. So that one, I'm not fully convinced, because I think there's an absolute massive lie happening about the geography of the planet. I think that's what the source of that is that there's a big lie. There is something that is a horrible, horrible lie about the Earth, that this is why it's in the collective of so many people questioning it. But as far as it being flat, I just feel like everything in creation mimics everything else in creation. And that basically, like, if it's a hologram, in the definition of a hologram is where one piece has the entirety of the whole inside of it, just like we're a person, we have the entirety of the universe inside of us, and it's just a pattern that repeats. And I just don't think that flat is in that pattern, because we see cells are round and all of these things of creation are round. So I think that, and I'm like, I don't know exactly what's true, but I'm like, also but I'm also not like venomously in either direction.
Yeah.
Like when people say that the earth is flat, I listen to what they have to say because it's honestly very interesting. I don't get triggered by it. I have a friend who's a hardcore flat earth person,
Yeah,
and
I'm a flat earther. I mean, it's
he's
flat,
taught
baby.
me a lot of stuff that is very interesting. Like, and I've a lot of the other stuff that he's taught me led into other things that I didn't know about. So I'm open to listening to any of the theories, you know, like, I'm open to all of them. I just feel that for me, I feel like they're is this pattern of in creation. We always see like your brain cells look like the universe. You know, the cell dividing looks like the birth of a star. So like we see these patterns. So this whole like flat terrain with just stuff around the side is not a pattern that we're really seeing in creation. However, you know, this like torus shaped, like the donut shape, we do see that shape in creation. So I'm open to listening to all these different possibilities.
Yeah, one, I'll start it off by saying that as a guy, I think that we are a little more STEM driven. We're a little more about the data and the numbers. You know, we're like, we need it to be like right. You know, we become contractors and engineers because we're like, it has to be plumb, it has to be flush, it has to be level. Where women are much more big picture. I don't care what it is, how does it feel, you know? And like, it doesn't, for the most part, I there's very rarely women that are staunch flat earthers. To me, that's a very masculine thing where we're like, we gotta know what this is on. Like,
and that's so true. I really can't think of
before I build a house.
I can't think of female flat earthers that I know. I have some friends that they'll discuss the idea, but they're also like,
because you guys are more about feeling. And but your feeling, what I will say, is way more, it's correct, and it's more correct than the model that they give us. And like me as a detailed flat earther, I don't care to like change your mind, because I know that, you know, the model we're given is wrong. It's given by liars. It's given by the same people who give us every other lie. And the fact that you're just like, okay, I know that we're special.
And there's a lot of female flat earthers here. So yes,
good. Yeah. Hey, it's flat girls. It's flat girls. I'm telling you, ladies.
And I want to know, how does the flat earth
we are
link into the hollow earth or the inner earth? Because I definitely believe in inner earth.
Okay.
So I'm like, what is it? Is it like a coin?
Yeah. How does that link on a globe with a liquid iron core of magma? How does the hollow earth work on that? Because if you're spinning a ball, like you spin a bucket, all the heavy elements end on the outside. So we would have a hollow earth. But our heliocentric model says that it's an iron core. Iron cannot be magnetized. Try to stick a magnet on iron. Can't happen. So not at that temperature. It's like over certain degrees supposedly in the core. Supposedly the earth is 25,000 miles. We've been 12 miles down. That's like, beep. So yes, it's hollow. So how does it fit in? It doesn't fit in on the ball. So it's got to fit in on something else. And if we've only been 12 miles down, the biggest waterfall, if anybody Googles the largest waterfall on Earth, it's underwater. It's in the ocean. So I believe we are on the flat, like isoelectric inertial plane of a torus field. The torus field is like an apple shape, or like a donut. But that donut is big, like this, like what you're saying, like a cell. But we're on the flat isoelectric plane. They cut us off from God. They say that you're just pieces of shit in sneakers flying through space, and there is no God. It's just random. It's science, baby. Where
I hate the randomness. There's nothing random.
There's nothing random. It's like, tell that to a detective. Tell a detective it's just coincidence, sir. And he'll be like, nope, that's why I got a freaking job, dude. And we live on that inertial plane. The reason why they cut us off from God, the people who gave us the Big Bang were the Vatican. A Jesuit gave us the Big Bang theory, which is the same as let there be light. And in my opinion, if you want to hide lands, if you want to cut people off from their history, you rewrite their maps, you move them all around, and you give them a fake geography. I ask people all the time, okay, how are our satellites the exact same as these maps that were made in the 1400s, 1500s? How are people mapping out mountains and oceans and coastlines of California walking around. Lewis and Clark were younger than you and I when they did the Louisiana Purchase. You believe that? I don't.
Some people are asking some different questions. Like one person is saying, so you don't think aliens are true then? I'm not sure how that relates.
Well, I believe that the first religion, the oldest religions, I would say even organized religions, where they had a common mythology, shows up with like Gnosticism and Sophia being this earth. Sophia, and even Dolores Cannon will talk about this earth is a God being. It's some type of source field consciousness, Mother Earth, Gaia, Sophia,
Yeah.
which means.
And it's like this pattern that happens. We're a being, but we're also a cell of a being, which
Exactly.
would be Earth.
Exactly. And just like what you're saying with the shape of things, yes, cells can be circular, but look at our shape. There's also a star pattern, like Leonardo da Vinci said. And these star patterns live within inside certain magnetized, electromagnetic fields.
And it seems like a certain level of consciousness, it becomes this star pattern.
Yes. And supposedly this template is the best template for this dimension or wherever we are. And when Sophia created herself in her dreamings in this being that she created us, she also created the demiurge. The demiurge they're the archons. In the Bible, they're the Elohim. The Bible says the Elohim went above the waters and made us in their image, in the image of the gods. They are called the elites because they're from the house of El. Superman was named Kal-El. He's from the house of El. He got his power from the sun. Jesus is the son of God. Most all religions are Saturn cults or solar cults. So these ancient religions say that Sophia created us, and these archons, these Elohim, they were dissonant, lower gods. The demiurge, who is Lucifer, Satan, he is the builder of the Freemasons, and he builds the material reality. He's like the engineer or the architect in the Matrix, vis-a-vis concordingly, that dude. And he says, I am God. He goes on earth and he says, I am God. There's nothing else before me. And she says, like, no, you are the blind one, which is where this one eye shit comes from. You are blind. And Christos, which is where Christ comes from, the crystal body. A crystal has the same name as Christ. These are the anointing, our light body. This template came to the avatar beings, us, and the Christ template was downloaded into our form. And she told this demiurge, there's a seed in man, and one day he will destroy your temple, this illusionary material reality. So all of these beings like Jesus that show up tell us that everything I could do, you can do. These are temples. God is within you. And there's a prophet for every people. There's a person for every page you could turn and every tongue. They all show up as these avatar beings to activate us.
Are you familiar with Ashayana Dean's work?
I've heard that name.
A lot of people have been sending me her stuff recently, and I've been getting into it. A lot of what she says is very similar to what you're talking about the Elohim and kind of a lot of like fallen angels and stuff like that. And I've been giving it definitely a chance because she has a lot of like very interesting stuff. And like I said, I like to absorb all the information, and then I'm the type of person, like I'll connect dots. So I'm like, okay, if I absorb all the information and 10 of 12 sources are saying kind of similar things, then, that's what I resonate with. So I feel like I would like to see what you think about her work, but it's like, her work is so dense and long. Yeah. Like people will send me these videos and they're like 2.5 hours long. But I actually did watch a lot of them because I want to understand what she's talking about. And it's a very similar, she talks a lot about the Christos, this like Christ energy, which I do believe in. I'm not as much into there's a lot about like the fallen ones and this, and I'm not as much into that. I know that's obviously a part of it. I've also looked into a lot of different stuff about Lucifer, obviously, because that is, uh, the general topic that comes up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as that, a lot of the things that I've seen, people channeling Lucifer, because I'll read it all. I also follow people who are Freemasons that debunk conspiracies about Freemasons, because I like to see what everybody is saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, one of the things that they talk about with Lucifer when people have channeled him, and I've seen this in a couple of different things, is that Lucifer basically is like a sixth dimensional being who is stuck because of our consciousness pulling him on him, basically. That this story of him that we're doing on earth, because we're creator beings, are creating, and not saying that he was perfect, but he is stuck in his ascension process because of humans attaching all of the story and emotions and fear and everything to him. So I always find it interesting. I like to see all of the different places, but then, also I have a friend that I was talking about it with, and they're like, that's Luciferian. You're saying Luciferian shit. And I'm like, I'm just
like
looking at, what is this here?
This is Morals and Dogma, the Freemason Bible. This is like 1910, 1920 version. And when you're talking about that, like, I do some stuff on Freemasons, and Freemasons will try to debunk it because they believe they're Luciferians. They believe Lucifer is the light bringer. Like what you're saying is true. Lucifer is Prometheus, who brings the fire and then gets, shamed, or is forever damned for it. The first story of Lucifer is he was God's favorite angel, his favorite son. And then God created Adam, who in some stories is Jesus. And he says, bow before my new favorite, my best creation. And he's like, I will bow before no one except for you, God.
And also having siblings. If I'm the youngest, well, kind of.
You'd be like, no,
my parents' first
baby.
marriage.
Yeah, that's my little sister. Yeah, and the baby's always the hero.
But if you're not the youngest, then you know how it feels to be like Lucifer.
Yeah, I'm the middle child. Yeah, I'm like, the baby's always the hero. So you'd be pissed. And he got cast down. He got butthurt and got flung down to heaven. But the Elohim are also the archangels. The archangels are the archons. They are also the 7 rulers, or 7 planetary spheres, which were these realms. Sophia is the first. And they say that we have to beat these archons, these rulers, in order to ascend out of here. The archons are the exact same colors and order as the chakras. Like Mars is the first one, and that's red, and that's a warring planet. It's also a warring god. It's one of the closest energies, and that's the red chakra. It's also like the color of Darth Vader's lightsaber. Most all bad is red. It's red hot, and blue is always good on that. And these archons, they say that you have to defeat them. And I believe the archons, that mystery of the secrets of the archons, are the Ark of the Covenant that the Templars withheld from us. And these are the 7 deadly sins, the 7 notes on a musical scale, 7 days of the week, 7 stars of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. I mean, it goes on and on.
You really need to look at Ashayana Dean's work, because literally I was looking through her book today just to kind of verify a couple of things, and she's literally talks about the same stuff with the Ark of the Covenant and stuff like that. I feel like you would really like her stuff. And that's the thing, is I like to hear it all, and that's why I like to, sometimes people will accuse me of different things, in my comments, because sometimes I reference the Bible, I reference different things. People will be like, oh, so you're a Christian. And then they're like, oh, you're a New Age witch.
And
it's like, they're like, you're Luciferian. And I'm like, I like to take in all the information. And I mean, I know better than to doubt whether something is completely false. Anytime that I say that something is completely not true, I will later be shocked. If I'm open-minded enough to receive more information, I'll be shocked, because there's things that I thought could have never been true, well,
like the dinosaurs. Dinosaur means terrible lizard. Reptilians are here. They are pivotal and instrumental in the evolution of humanity on this planet.
Exactly.
There was an era of these reptilians. I mean, so like what you were saying with Dolores Cannon, where you're like, I can't reason. Like, I know that there's truth, which, yeah, you're right. But it's how you find it is never how you think you're going to confirm it.
It's
Like,
true.
you're like, oh, the earth can't be flat, but you might confirm it through an astral projection or something, when that was never your intention. I have people say all the type of shit to me too. I'm like, dude,
I know.
we're
And it's
whatever
really
they
just
want us to be.
labeling. And it also goes back to say this is probably like a Luciferian concept, which is like, even what we started with is kind of like these darkest moments are your greatest teachers and the greatest things that push you through to the next step. So some people who, Luciferians or whatever, who believe that he is the light bringer, a lot of times, you could also have the concept of like, you find the light through the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So is he still serving God, by pushing the creation to their edge to ascend higher? So I'm like, I could definitely see all different sides of it. There's also this book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. So, Napoleon Hill wrote all of those books, like about like Think Rich and,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, so many of those self-help books. He channeled the devil in the time when he was writing all those books. And basically, the devil tells him during this book is, I'll tell you all the truth and you won't publish it, because if you publish it, your entire life will be ruined, because everything that I expose to you, those people are going to attack you because it's the truth. So his wife never let him publish this book. And then in 2013, his family decided that they wanted to publish it. So it's actually like his newest book all these decades after he's been dead. So it's very interesting to read this like channeled book with the devil, because it's one of the first things that he talks about of like, are you real or whatever? And he's like, every single thing is positive and negative. He's like, look at your cells. You have a positive and negative charge in every single cell within your body.
Yep.
How can you doubt that there is only one without the other? And one of the other things too that he talks about is like drifters. And he says that basically the only thing that the devil would like fear in a way is the people who are not drifters. And he said, not at that time, especially, it was higher then, I think, but he said it was like 90% of the population or more are drifters, which means that they don't think for themselves and they don't live in their purpose. And if you don't live in your purpose and think for yourself and find your own soul's journey, you're drifting. And most religions are not teaching people to live in their purpose or to search their own soul's journey. So, he talks about the schools and religions and stuff actually being his tool to prevent people from finding their true self. So it's very interesting, like, as we know, everything has been inverted, so it's like what a lot of people think is good, a lot of time is actually preventing them from finding out who they truly are, and
Absolutely.
a lot of things that are dark and evil actually pushes people closer to their truth. So it's just like, I feel like, this is like the thing is that we're never, at least I feel like at this point, I'm not going to have it fully figured out, but I'm still chipping away at it.
And you're getting stronger every time and better every time. All of these ideas are like bullies waiting to be stood up against. And the devil is, in etymology, is the adversary, because truly most things that seem evil are just an adversary waiting for you to conquer them. And a lot of time people develop shame and guilt and fear. Like what I see in my job, mostly people call 911 because they're afraid, and they've held on to something for so long that now it's a heart attack, when a year before it was just like a little flutter. And people do that with truth. When somebody says like, that's this person, hey, your husband is not good for you, and they're like, no, why would he lie? It's like, that's what the government does. That's what a lot of things do until you face them, because reality is only as honest as you are and as you make reality be, really. Like, I hold reality accountable. That's how you manifest shit, is like you're direct in your actions. You ask the question that inherently has the answer. You know, like, we're good researchers because we know how to type in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Google isn't
And I feel the
censored.
universe guides the information
Yes.
because it's not that hard to find. It literally presents itself. So it's
The
like you
right
type in the
question.
question, but it starts with you thinking the question in your mind. Like everything starts as a thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So you're going to manifest the answer to that crazy question, you know? Like even with this Luciferian stuff, I'm like, is this what these people believe? And obviously, you know, you can't find the actual real books and texts of that because it's all very hidden, but you can see it in other ways, what it means. And then you're presented with that type of information. So it's like, same thing with like the flat earth stuff, you know, you have to actually think if it's possible in order to see any evidence of whether it
Yeah.
is.
And why wouldn't you want your world to be that wide? Why wouldn't you want to open up more possibilities? Most people I know, they're fucking boring. You know what I mean? Like, they're boring. And because they have boring ideas. Like, I can't date people because they'll just talk about people. Ignorant people talk about other people. Like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial and the Will Smith slap. We talk about ideas.
I'm going to
And
say I consume all information. So, yes, I have seen all of the
no, yeah,
testimonies
no doubt.
as
But we're
well.
talking about the ideas behind those. Like, no, it is a staged reality, but what are they trying to force? Why are they showing us this? What are they trying to program? Why are they making this distraction? We're looking at it at different angles, but
Yeah.
not the same way that
And
they
I
are.
feel like it's this grand, obviously, the manipulation is always happening. But even, you know, they better have done Amber Heard's cross examination today. I haven't checked yet. But I just think it's so interesting that it's like everyone all of a sudden, and it's like, yeah, sure, we all like Johnny Depp, obviously. I mean, What's Eating Gilbert Grape was one of my favorite movies of all time. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like everyone's acting like he's a saint and a good guy. And it's like, that's what I'm watching for when I'm watching this is I'm like, obviously Amber Heard was also lying about what she experienced.
Yeah.
But the fact that everyone is like obsessed with Johnny Depp, like he's this like the greatest victim of domestic violence ever. It's like, but do you also hear that they were both and he's just a better gaslighter and he's gaslighting better than she can.
He's just more popular.
Yeah. And it's like he's more likable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, too, you know, he's manipulating women as he was probably in his relationship with Amber and with his wife before that. And it's like now all of these women are like fighting for Johnny Depp. Like he's not toxic also. Like the whole relationship wasn't. Usually there's not just one toxic person in a relationship. It wouldn't be a relationship. It would be a prisoner situation.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Both of them are obviously toxic. So I just find it interesting. That's why I consume all the information. I mean, except for like the regular news, I can't do it.
But you can handle it and you're consuming it for a purpose and you're not just superimposing that onto your life. It's like there's people that watch it
or just accepting what the narrative is telling.
They go buy the products, they wear the clothes, they take the selfies with the duck lips, like different thing. And Johnny Depp, like somebody put it here, like Don Juan de Marco, the greatest lover in the world. But he was, you know, he played Hunter S. Thompson. I got a rule of thumb where if you play a vampire, I think you're a vampire. Like, you're a vampire, Johnny. You drinking adrenochrome, dog. I know it.
And who told us about the adrenochrome first? Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes, and who was Johnny Depp build a part of his career on it? Part of his life is based. He paid for Hunter S. Thompson's funeral, which was to shoot his ashes, I think, out of a fucking cannon or something like that. God. Yeah,
I used to love Hunter S. when I was younger. When I was in high school, I read, you know, I read all the books when I was in high school. Now, when I've kind of looked back at some of it, his like stuff that he's talking about in a lot of his books are insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you know who he is now?
He's
Joe
talking
Rogan.
about like West Palm Beach and how basically these young girls were getting paid to do stuff and how they basically kidnap young girls and give them to people as Christmas presents. He's literally straight up saying that in his books. And I'm like, how did we all read this at the time and be like, wow, this guy's so cool? And then now you're like, whoa, he flat out was just saying West Palm Beach. We obviously knew that they were buying girls there and why it was all, everyone was getting away with it. But it's like, wow, he straight up says it all in his books.
Yeah, he was supposedly making snuff films and stuff too. Hunter S. Thompson is that archetype. Joe Rogan is now playing that role, where he is this outlaw reporter kind of role, like this kind of counterculture icon that we let get away with some unacceptable shit that I bet you in years later we're going to find out all the real shit that he's been doing, because the myth, it's like I tell people all the time, if I would have told you what Bill Cosby was doing 20 years ago, you'd be like, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. He sells the pudding pops. No. So that's why I don't trust people. I'm like, if old Bill Cosby did that, they're all suspect in my opinion. Johnny Depp included. They're all like Hunter S. Thompson and Johnny Depp. One of the most damning bits of evidence for me with Johnny is Damien Eccles. Those 3 teen killers that were put on trial, the satanic trial, murderers, and they served prison time. But Johnny Depp kept like doing like testimony for him, trying to get him out of jail and stuff. I think he
Interesting.
like sponsored him and stuff. And this Damien Eccles guy is a Satanist Luciferian. He's on YouTube now, but
wow,
I forget. Maybe somebody in the comments will tell you what they were called. It was like I forget where they were from, but there was 3 of these young boys that killed people, and Johnny Depp was friends with them. Damien Eccles is his name.
Interesting. I never
Yeah.
heard of that.
They were on trial and shit. It was like, that's not a good guy. It's the same way like Mark Wahlberg was wanted or looked into for murder when he was a young man. He was also supposed to be on the planes of 9/11, Mark Wahlberg. So was Seth MacFarlane. And look at their careers now.
Wow. I mean, the whole thing is so bizarre. And then it's also too, it's like, the entire celebrity thing is, I think that's the biggest one for people to accept a lot of times. Like for you, it was Dinosaurs because probably when you were younger, you loved Dinosaurs.
I loved them. Land Before Time.
Oh, Land Before Time.
It's the Memphis 3. Somebody just commented. The West Memphis 3 is what it is. Look into that. You'll love it because Johnny Depp stuff, you'll be like, yeah, West Memphis 3.
And it's like all of these people are a couple of, degrees or 1 degree away from some fucked up shit. Yeah. And I mean, probably all of us are in a way because there's the whole 6 degrees of separation between everyone in the world. But at the same time,
why is it 6 degrees, do you think?
I wonder, right?
It's probably like a lot like 6 feet, between everybody. Or how the carbon atom, which men are carbon now. We're carbon and not silicon based. Like mountains are silicon, old trees. Most mountains are. There used to be giants, probably silicon based life forms. And now we're carbon. Carbon is 6 protons, neutrons, and electrons. 666. I mean, they do this shit all the time. Just like the Earth
and
is
exactly
on
too,
a
like even
66.6 degree tilt. Dinosaurs 66 million years ago. 66 books in the Bible. I mean, and I'm not even a Rain Man.
369 being basically all of like creation codes basically. And it's like, it's the same thing, but you could use them in either direction. You could use whatever it is, this power of 6, apparently you could use it for the positive or you could use it for the negative. And obviously the ways to use them for positive is a lot less common because that's not what the mystery schools focused on. The mystery schools didn't focus on service to others. It was only for personal gain and control and power, which is why like a lot of these things are always associated with evil. And it's really because the people who had the information used it for negative. And I think it's good that, there's so many people now that are like taking a lot of the same information and applying it to good, because people need to know how to use it for their own, well, not just their own benefit, but the collective benefit, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that even the 369 stuff reminds me of the Holy Trinity and what that means in a fractal reality, in octaves of the same Holy Trinity within inside of us. And even when you look into other areas of belief where we're a three body, where there's a three body problem. Man has three bodies. You have your spiritual, your soul, and then you have your material, or you have electricity, magnetism, and then like this light, like photons. Um,
And that's why
Nikola
they say
Tesla
three is
said
the magic number.
it is, yeah, but it's the Holy Trinity, you know. And what we were saying earlier with all of this shit we're going through, that's why Jesus was crucified on the cross. Whether that story is a real happening, but a cross is a crucible, what alchemists use to put an element in a fire to turn into gold. Um, that symbol is us submitting ourselves to this crucible called life and to get this spiritual gold. And the more open you are to that, I do believe that that's how you can get more base, more black to turn into gold.
Mm-hmm. So many people are saying different things here. Let me see.
I was asking you the other day about MK Ultra because of your name. You know, it's an awesome name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my name is based off of MK Ultra.
Yeah. So what do you like? Like Alice in Wonderland. That's why I told you. I'm like, look, you're blonde. Like you're like little Alice in Wonderland going in these rabbit holes, which is a MK Ultra Disney fairy tale, Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, written by a pedophile.
Yeah.
Who was in love with his 7-year-old niece.
They all are.
About the MK Ultra stuff, I don't know if you ever read the Fritz Springmeier books.
Which what are they called?
So one of them is How to Create an Undetectable Mind Control Slave, and it's the entire. I'll have to send it to you. It's hard to find. I'll send you the PDF, and it's basically the entire formula of how they create a mind control slave that is undetectable to the general public. And it's nuts. It's honestly like one of the most dense books I've ever read. I haven't got all the way through it because like I'll read like 50 pages and then I need like a year off because it literally makes you feel sick because it's so crazy and dark. But one of the things that I find really interesting from that book, I mean, everything in the book is interesting, is they talk about obviously the different types of mind control slaves. And, you know, you have, you guys, if you want, you can look it up. It's probably on archive.org. It's Fritz Springmeier, if you just put like MK Ultra, but put How to Create an Undetectable Mind Control Slave. And it's written by Fritz Springmeier, and there's a second author too, Cisco Wheeler. And so one of the things that I find most interesting about these methods is how they choose the person. And sometimes like he'll say something in that book and you're like, there's no fucking way. And then you Google it and you're like, oh my God, he's telling the truth. This is real. And you'll be able to confirm some of the information. And one of the things that he talks about is the hierarchical mind control slave. So obviously, you know, we know about the monarch programming and it goes all into the monarch programming. But there's a hierarchical programming, which basically happens to people who are of the elite families. So they get some selective people from the families, not everybody, some people who have fit this thing when they're selecting a person. There's a personality test that was so controversial. There's like a Rolling Stone article about it in the 70s, which is one of those things that I confirmed from the book, that they're able to tell the personality type from like inside the womb or like within like the first days of birth. And it's it's a personality test that has like never really been released to the public because it was so controversial. And they said like it was basically like kind of how they talk about like Myers-Briggs is like bad now. So it's like the same type of thing. And so they're able to tell these personality types from the womb. So they already know who is, you know, to go after. That would be the perfect person to fit this programming. And the hierarchical people, and when I'm reading it, it literally sounds like Paris Hilton to me as I'm reading it, where they say they will take like a elite family member, children of an elite family, and they do a different type of programming that's not as brutal as the one that they would do to the main monarch people. And then those people indirectly become programmers of others. So they're able to control others to go into the mind control program without having to do it. So it made me think of like the stuff I was reading fits Paris Hilton so much. And then how she basically is the reason we have Kim Kardashian and Lindsay Lohan and Nicole Richie and all of these other celebrities are basically offsets of her. She kind of created them. And it talks about how like basically it's like that's a different type of mind control slave. In the book, he also says that George W. Bush is one of them. So they pick like certain people to train the others so they don't need to do it to everyone. And then when Paris Hilton, like last year, came out and said that she went to that boarding school, behavioral school, literally the stuff that she said they did to her in that school is the same thing that this book talks about them doing to the hierarchical slaves, which is starvation. They're not allowed to talk for days. If they talk, they will starve them. They do like psychological abuse. And it's like literally the stuff that is in the book, which is the lighter versions of the way they create these people. So I was just like, that book is intense. I highly suggest it, but at the same time, like read it in small parts. Also, if anyone has any like possibility of being schizophrenic, it says in the beginning of the book, if you have any possibility that you either were subjected to this or have ever, you know, have that possibility that you could be schizophrenic, they said, don't read the book. It's literally going to break your brain because the information is too much. And it says the mind is a garden and it's not always time to harvest. Sometimes it's time to plant seeds, and sometimes it's time to take care of the soil. So if you're in that position of possibly having a mental issue, or you might have been a victim of this, maybe it's time to take care of the soil before you plant any seeds, before you water it, and before you harvest. And I'm like, okay, I love that. It's, and I think that's another thing too with, you know, sometimes I get concerned about sharing information because obviously, you know, I want the information to get to the right people, and I think it mostly does. At the same time, sometimes I get worried that, you know, it gets to people who maybe can't handle the information, you know? So I always want people to like, remember, like, sometimes you got to take care of the soil. You got to pull back from, if you're getting overwhelmed by conspiracy stuff, take some time. Focus on your day-to-day life. Go to the park. Don't use your phone for a while.
Put some sunshine on that garden, you know.
It's true. Some
you have
healing.
to, because a lot of people, unfortunately, these programs, you know, from Project Bluebird to Project Artichoke to Project MK Ultra to Project Montauk Project, all of them were templates and trial runs to take on to the greater public through things like our media and through people like Paris Hilton. There's a reason why Mengele, the Nazi doctor Mengele, was very interested in twins. It's the same reason why Elon Musk has 2 sets of twins and a set of triplets, like the Olsen twins, like Cain and Abel, where cannibal comes from. Everything is about, the word is called superfecundation. It's when 2 twins can be born by different fathers. It's they get, and that's supposedly what Cain and Abel were. Cain is of the Luciferian line, and Abel is of a real Adam line. And this continues. This is the same mythology of Thor and Loki. Well, I think through these templates through trying things on the what they do with twins is they create two templates of epigenetic memory. That's why they use someone like George Herbert Walker Bush, George W.'s father. He was one of the most prolific handlers, one of the most prolific MK Ultra abusers, which is why his son was so responsive to the abuse, is because in order to give it, you have to receive it. And there's epigenetic memory in the Bush family line, which goes back to the Windsors, the Habsburgs, goes all the way back to Vladimir Dracula. All of them are related to Dracula, even the Prophet Muhammad. They're all on the same line. All our presidents are related. And it's all because of this epigenetic memory. There's a Trump that wears a red tie and a Trump that wears a blue tie. Whether that is two Trumps or two alters of our bicameral mind, a reptilian brain and a mammalian brain. Godzilla and King Kong battling it out in Skull Island. They tell us this shit all the time. And with these systems, they're trying to figure out, okay, if we got the same person, what game works better? And they've been running these games on all of us. And when you, like what you're saying, when you warn people, there's alters within inside everybody. We've had to integrate our dissonant aspects of ourselves, parts of us that we've lost, parts of us that we've shut out or changed or warped. A lot of the times people trigger you, it's because they're awakening something that needs to be awakened. And people do have to integrate their own alters, because that's what they create, you know, that like with this MK, you know, you got the bunny, the like the sex slave, you got the candidate, you have these assassins,
all of these different archetypes.
You have super soldiers now who are out here saying that they're on Mars. When you do past life regression, remote viewing, 80% of humanity will say they have an experience on Mars. It's a collective part of our psyche, whether that's ancestral or not. But these super soldiers, they're going through MK Ultra. They believe they're going through. They will go into an altar and think they're on Mars shooting aliens when really they're in a mosque and they're wiping out people.
Wow.
And now they're going to be framed just like they do in West Palm Beach. And that's what people got to understand is like, it's both true. There's super soldiers, but they're just super indoctrinated and fractured. And when you listen to Max Spears and those guys, they're usually fucked up on drugs because they have to silence certain alters in order to communicate.
So it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the guys, I think I just posted him in my last video. I follow his work a lot. I have his book too. His name's Randy Kramer, and he's a very divisive person. Like when I post him, people lose their shit because he claims that he was in hand-to-hand combat with reptilians on Mars. And a lot of his information is very valid, because a lot of the information he says lines up with what I've seen in so many different places. So I believe Randy Kramer. I've watched hours and hours and hours of his interviews. However, if you watch some of his initial interviews, he says he's a super soldier who was grown basically in a lab. He was genetically manipulated as a child, and he also says he was a product of MK Ultra, that he was a part of something called Project Moonshadow, and that there was a whole group of children that were involved with it. So sometimes people are like, oh, you completely discredited your whole entire page by posting Randy Kramer. He's a bullshit artist. He's a con man. And I'm like, I believe a lot of what he's saying.
That is telling you the truth about the con that's been done on him.
Exactly.
Like, that's and what people don't understand. There's like, no, he is real. It's like Alex Jones is legit. But like what you're saying, this character, this persona that he's manifested is so solidified now that is like, better or worse, that is his character. And like Randy Kramer, he that is his truth. Whether we want to discredit it or not, I guarantee you, gun to his head, it's his truth.
I
Waterboard him,
believe
it'll
it.
be his
And
truth.
exactly whether those hand-to-hand combat happens is what I've responded to people is like, I don't know whether he has or hasn't. He definitely was mind controlled to believe that it really happened,
You know how many
and
women I've dated that have told me their ex-boyfriends were some monsters? What's the difference? Well, I don't know any of
true.
that. I don't see any of those proofs anywhere. She could be lying. Or we could just believe that that was her reality and say, okay, you know what I mean? It's
So
like people,
my
it's
friend
like, what
was,
is your past? Where is your past at? You can't prove it. Living in the
and
real world, you can't prove it.
it goes on to say too about like these altars and different things too, how like everyone could have altars. It's like this is also comes back to the cancel culture, is that like a lot of people are getting canceled for stuff that they've done 10 or 20 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And it's like some people have done the work to integrate the different parts of themselves and to dismiss the parts that no longer serve them. But at that time, they were feeding into that other alter, that other personality, that other person that they used to be, which probably comes from trauma. They probably were engaging in that other type of personality because of trauma. And if they've worked
It's
to
the
heal it,
it's the other archon type. The archetypes are the archon types. Those are the Mars, Saturn. When you have shitty time management and you feel like you can't get anything done and time is flying by, that's Saturn. That's Chronos that you have to integrate into your being. When you are arguing with everybody or just cheating on somebody or whatever, that's your lower chakra. That's Mars. That's going to war with people, getting in little arguments. That's the red pill that is bitter and burns on the way down. But you got to integrate it and learn to live with it and learn to live with knowing there's this evil, but you're not part of it. The only way you're part of it or not, it's just like with this body autonomy fight. You only know what choice you're going to make when you have to make that choice.
when you're in that position.
Otherwise, it's all conjecture. It's just, okay, that's a theory. But like when people are like, I would never get divorced. Like, I'm a divorced man. I never planned on it. I didn't plan on a lot of shit in my life. You know what I mean?
And you
Like,
definitely should never say what you're never going to do.
yeah.
Because it's almost like you're challenging the universe.
Yeah.
So, and I also, when people say the word never, I've learned to kind of like not trust what that person is saying, because when you really look at the big picture, it usually you've had to be in that position or you're going to be in that position at some point, because it's almost like a challenge to the universe.
Yep. I think God's favorite word is yet. It's just because anytime somebody says some
Yeah.
shit like that's, I'm like, yet. That's a conspiracy.
true.
That's not true. It's like, not true yet, dude. Because you don't know what the future holds. That's the point of all of this shit. This is a novel creations generator. Whoever makes the best of the best, they take it, and I think they take it to the lands beyond the ice wall or something. Like I think movies like The Giver are about that breakaway civilization in Agartha, in the North or the South. I mean, there is no South Pole. What's over there? Like what you were saying earlier with geography. Epstein's Islands were in the Virgin Islands. Do you think that's any fucking coincidence they're named the Virgin Islands? It's sick. It's sick.
Yeah, true.
I think there's a land bridge that connects Russia to Alaska.
And there
very
is.
few people have been up there. And when you look into the people, the Eskimos, there's Japanese people were going back and forth to California all the time. And then the Japanese people, when you talk to them, they were speaking the same language as the South Americans at a certain point. There was no Pangea. There were always land bridges that connect all of these things, in my opinion. That's why.
And it is also strange that the flying route can only go one way. I've always, even when you're a little kid and you see that, you're like, well, wait, why would they go that way if they could just go this way? Why?
And then they say that the whole thing is spinning 1,000 miles an hour atmosphere too. But like even the Red Bull jump, people are like, the Red Bull jump. Okay, the guy supposedly left the atmosphere. Comets and meteorites burn this hell up. But he goes, no problem, and he lands in the same spot he took off from. What's spinning? You know, people say that we've been to the moon. The moon is 240,000 miles away. The ISS supposedly is 230 miles away. 240,230. People don't understand this thing, and they're like, it's not a sphere, it's a parabola, it's a pear. I'm like, well, then all your pictures you say are real are spheres. So which one is it? I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre that
I
in
feel like we're getting
2022.
closer to finding out what's really going on with it. You know, it's like, I love the questions that are being asked. You know, I'm like, I'm hearing what everyone has to say. And I mean, there's obviously a lot more answers in the direction of it being something different than what we've been told. Because, I mean, people definitely present a lot of good questions. You know, I'm
I
like,
love it. That's my favorite thing about comments and stuff. When the people ask you comments or put you on a track where you're like, "Oh, thank you for that tasty little comment," you know, and they put you down this path that you would have never found without the random comment, drive by, await red pill, like poof, Nicole Simpson is Megan Kelly, poof, and you're just like, oh god.
it's true. Sometimes people do. They ask questions and you're like, huh, now I have something to investigate and prove or disprove. Who
Like, I
knows if
don't
you're
know.
open enough?
Morgan Freeman might be Jimi Hendrix.
Is this one of the theories?
Yes. Like and you go look at the pictures, you're like, oh man, like volcanoes, I think were nuclear reactors on some older civilization. Like, I think a lot of cave systems and this whole tunnel systems could have been tree roots. You know, these mountains are giant trees. Where were the roots? They would be cave systems. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many weird, like, questions that should be so simple, and people will make fun of you for asking it, but it's like, why is space black when it's nothing but stars, and stars are nothing but suns? How does that make any sense? I don't know.
It's crazy. Like, um, from again, Randy Kramer, he talks about, you know, doing all of these different missions and exactly whether these missions are real or these missions happened in some
He
type
did
of
them.
simulated reality that he has been subjected to, you know. But he talks about traveling through space. And one of the things that I found so interesting about what he said, which is another reason why I kind of feel like I believe a lot of what he says, because he says very interesting details. And he says that not until you're out there do you realize the sound that they're all making. And he's like, you literally hear them making this sound. And he says it's really like resonates inside of you, that like, and I was like, you know, it's so interesting. I never thought of that. This is like when you're in space, it's like it doesn't look like the way we see it, and that it doesn't feel that way because there's literally sounds vibrating off of each of the stars. I'm like,
I think the planets are frequency resonators, generators on this cosmic circuit board or whatever the hell we're in. Mars could just be like that red light on a LED circuit board, that it's like what he's saying, sound and light, all of these things are aspects of the same disturbance, that same string being plucked that creates all vibrations. So, truthfully, if you were out there in this awareness, I believe that's how astrology works. Are there
mm-hmm,
those planets, whatever they are it's whatever that Mars frequency is, that red color shift is, that's it's
mm-hmm.
being blasted in you. And when your template, your soul template is being created or whatever, whatever is in that sky at the same time will dictate who you are. And that's how these people know who you are. They know the astrology. The people who run our world are way more superstitious than you and
Oh
I will
yeah,
ever be.
for
You know, that
sure.
people are like, no, I'm like, go read Hillary Clinton saying she's sacrificing chickens to Moloch and opening the things of Gilgamesh. And most people have never heard of any of those words.
And even too, if you see even like her Howard Stern interview, the way I think he asks her about like God or something like that. I mean, it's a lot closer to the way that I would probably describe God than the people think that she would say. Like a lot of people think it would be like, oh, like a Christian God. But, she talks about like, basically, she thinks that we're all little fractals of something greater and that there's a ultimate purpose, that we're all one and we're all part of the same. And I'm like, it's very interesting if you actually look at what a lot of politicians say. They're not really saying, I mean, when they openly do these speeches where they're trying to manipulate people, but when they're talking in like a more honest format where she could just talk to Howard Stern more honestly or write her book or different people, like they're in a like honest state that they're not trying to manipulate people on the other side of a podium. They're very interesting the way that they actually do describe their beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Because it takes knowledge like you have to decipher the message. Because like Jesus, if you want to use beautiful truth and you want to also use beautiful lies, you use it in parables and in a way to make people have to think about what you've said. And it's just the same way, like what you even said about Clinton. It's exactly like George Herbert Walker Bush Sr., how he used to always say 1,000 points of light. He used to always say this in speeches. It's because they do believe we are all. That's why they're Luciferians, the light bringer. They believe we are all, but the light that they believe in, unfortunately, will lead to the digital light. It's the electric light. It's not divine sunlight. It's this LED halogen, this electrical signal light. But they do believe in that. People think Trump is an idiot. And I'm like, I mean, I believe it would be a lot weirder than just him just being an idiot, but he had better education than we will ever have. He was in a Jesuit academy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jesuits own every Ivy League school. Every major university is Jesuit owned. That's why they own the Lucifer telescope. The Vatican does. But Donald Trump was the tip of the spear in his Jesuit academy. The tip of the spear is a Roman term from the spear that killed Jesus. So when people in our military say, well, we're the tip of the spear and, oh, Trump's the tip of the spear, what spear are they talking about? Because most people are so illiterate to, religious language that they think that it's a good thing. It's the spear of destiny that stabbed Jesus and gave him his mortal wound. And that's Trump.
And it's true. Exactly. That's the one that they call the mortal wound. I remember when I was younger, we learned that. I'm like, well, what do they mean by mortal wound?
In the movie Constantine, the bad guy, the devil, he finds the tip of the spear, and that's what gives him powers. And John Constantine, played by Keanu Reeves, who plays this character in a lot of things, Constantine is also the one who converted to Christianity, converted Rome, Constantinople. Rome is all made up too. Even the name Rome, nobody can find what that means, because it was started by two brothers like Cain and Abel, where Romulus, who created Rome, killed Remus and created Rome. Rome was founded by killing his brother. Does that sound like Cain? You know what I'm saying? And that gave us Rome. And Rome was ruled by Mars. Mars was Romulus's dad, supposedly. A warring place. A scarlet whore of Babylon. The Vatican's built on 7 hills, like the 7-headed beast. I mean, it's wild, but the Vatican is the worst of the worst.
It is, yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. So, I'm doing this Alien series now, which has been like my next series is going to be a way easier topic that doesn't require so much information. But it's the same type of thing. We're talking about the origin of humanity starting in Lyra. And basically it was the two sides, which then ended up warring with each other. They spread to the next place, which was like Sirius. Again, the same battle between people who were both from the same place. That battle came to Orion. Orion became the same thing, which is where the polarity and duality really materialized. And then we're here on Earth with the same thing, with the same two things, you know, Democrat and Republican. It's kind of the same story
Red
as the
and
two
blue are their
brothers.
colors too.
Yeah, red and blue. It's like everything,
Halo was red and
male
blue.
and female. Everything is coming back to kind of like the two parts of the whole at war with each other in some way.
Which is why the royals are purple, is because the red and the blue equals royal purple. It's the integration of the Democrat and Republican, those two dialectics. It's also, you know, fire and water. But with even those, what you're saying, it's like people, I'm a flat earther, but Sirius is the only star system mentioned in the Bible. The Pleiades.
Well, the couple are, you know.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like distinctly saying like this, they point out the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, the 7 stars, and those same Pleiades are where the angel Moroni showed up to Joseph Smith, who started the Mormons, gave him the golden tablets. This angel shows up and says, "I'm from the Pleiades," and Orion, this negative aspect, like you said, that's where we get Aryan. When they showed up and said, "We're from Orion," that came into Aryan, which is just like the Targaryens in Game of Thrones, who had dragons. All of these words are all mixed into everything, just like we are talking on an apple with a bite out of it.
And it's crazy. All of these words are completely mixed in, like draconian laws. It's like just commonly used. And it's like, well, where do you think this like energy of that word is coming from? Where do you think the Greeks originally got that word from?
Yep.
You know,
Alpha Draconis, and Draco means dragon, vampire, Dracula, Draconian. And they say it's from the Roman ruler Draco. Nah, dog. Alpha Draconis. You know that. With the Truman Show, the thing that I'm like, who is writing this stuff? With the Truman Show, the thing that woke him up was when a star, you know, falls from the stage and lands, and when he picks it up, it says Sirius B.
Wow.
It's like, out of all the things to write on that, why did you write Sirius?
Wow.
And I think it says
the thing I was doing today, I was looking into the next part of my series is Sirius. So today I was like reading so much stuff, and a lot of what they're saying is that, you know, as this war moved to Sirius B started to become where the negative polarity got stronger. And so it was like Sirius B, and it's funny because it's like a small star, but it's so dense, and, you know, dense is kind of like being the opposite of light, you know? And it's like they were saying that basically that's where this negative polarity was getting worse in Sirius B. And then it's interesting how many things too, both good and bad, have come from Sirius.
Yeah, I think, what do you think, now that we're on this talk of Sirius, right? Because there's like these, I think that the snake, the serpent, is very similar to this vampiric kind of collective egregore, or like this kind of idea of a demon, or like whatever. And then the other side of that is like the Dogon tribe, or the Dog Star, and it's like werewolves, and even like in Game of Thrones,
and it's interesting, right?
Fighting each other. It's the dragons versus the House of the Wolves, the dire wolves. So it's like these weird little, and I think the Dog Star goes back to those these beings, like Anubis.
Yeah, it was literally, I already recorded this earlier today, so it's funny that we're talking about it all. But also the other thing that comes up, which I didn't add to the video because it was kind of too out there, and I just really want to get through this series, is that there's also a lot of, apparently, dolphins and dolphin people are also originating from Sirius, which is interesting too, that it's like, you know, dolphins, we've always tried to kind of find what is this exact link between dolphins and humans. And we know that there's one, but it's like not really, you know, there's like a lot of theories which have mostly like faded out. But in the 80s,
Alarmus,
there were a lot of,
you know, the fish hats, the mitre hats of the Pope, and Jesus, the only symbol he ever used was the fish.
And it's interesting because it's like now I'm like all of these, like they're saying that this like dolphin people are from Sirius. And obviously there's so many planets around each star, probably, you know, we have 9 at least, probably 12 around ours. And it's like there's probably so many different types of life around each one. So it's interesting too that, you know, a lot of times it's like it's dog or it's serpent or it's dolphin. It could be so many different things.
It could be, and we're probably all of the same. I want to talk about a wild ass theory that I came across. I haven't even looked into it, but it's manatees are humanoids. You know, they're manatees, but it goes into this dolphin thing where like, and there's a reason why they're endangered and protected, but like we are some type of alien genetic experiment. They say, and these super soldiers will say, like, our template is the best template for a lot of these other realities, these other realms, that this seems like the best one that they've decided on. But that even with Earth, dolphins, porpoises, killer whales, they have a way bigger and more developed prefrontal cortex than we do. They also can access 95% of the Earth's biosphere, you know, because the surface supposedly is covered within like 70% water. And they could go all these places. So they could go to the biggest waterfall, but we can't. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they save the dolphins. I read books from this guy who studied with John Lilly, who gave acid to dolphins and got in isolation tanks with them. And they also started a large hadron collider with artificial intelligence to try to study the geometric holographic language of these dolphins, which Echo, the Sega game Echo, is based off of John Lilly's work.
Oh, wow.
John Lilly gets in there with these dolphins, and this supercomputer tells them, we were humans. We walk on land, but we went back in water after weapons and humanity changed. We will help usher in, you know, like goes into this whole crazy shit.
Also like the Simpsons episode with the dolphins. Wow.
It's something to do with dolphins.
Have you ever seen that video of, it's like a bunch of like teenage male dolphins, and they're passing around a blowfish like a blunt, and they're all getting high off of it. And then they realize that someone's watching and filming them, and then their behavior changes and goes back to being like a fish. But they're literally look like teenage boys sitting there getting high. And I'm like, it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Dude,
I can't get it out of my head.
Under the sea.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, go back to being dolphins.
Dude, I would have went over there and taken a hit off of that blowfish. I'd be like, let me in this circle, boys. Puff that dolce to the left-hand side. How sick would that be? Like, dude, I hit a blowfish with a circle of dolphins. I'd die.
You joined the dolphin cipher.
Yeah. I'd expect to be eaten by a great white shark right after that, because that'd be too cool.
And did you ever hear of this? It was, I think, also in the 80s. There was this book called Wet Goddess, where this guy who was involved with all of these experiments that they were doing on dolphins, a female dolphin, was communicating with him telepathically, and they fell in love with each other. And then the whole entire thing got shut down. And then he ended up publishing it. Oh, he's the one who wrote Wet Goddess.
He fell in love with his dolphins. He was giving them LSD and getting in a freaking isolation chamber with them, tripping out with them. I think that's going to get somebody shut down. It's like, bro. Like, what if they are...
But then, obviously, the secret covert stuff continued doing it.
Oh, they definitely still do it, man. You know, like, have you ever heard the whole thing of, like, Russians training dolphins with, like, bombs on their heads in, like, the ocean, like, attack dolphins and stuff?
The dolphins are like, we literally came here because of the weapons. We don't want your weapons.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they left because of the weapons, and we're like, I'm going to take you, give you LSD, and put you in this tank with me. Like, what are we doing to these creatures, you know?
It's insane. And then people want to think that it's not possibly be done to us from other beings that are in other dimensions that are above us, you know?
I've been abducted twice. I'm not even lying to you. Twice.
I believe you.
And I think that But when you get abducted, people say that if you say like the power of Christ compels you, that they'll disappear. And that's why I think they're all the same thing.
And I think too, because what they talk about it in one of the Dolores books, and not exactly only in relation to aliens, but also in relation to like possession and demons and spirits too. And they talk about that basically invoking the name of Christ, God, or the white light, if you don't believe in Christ or God. You can also invoke the white light as just a neutral thing, that any of these things, no matter what they are, will leave. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that they're evil or bad. It just like, it's universally accepted as like, this means that this person, I'm
You have
invading
to
this
say
person's,
no.
yeah, I'm
You
invading
have to
this
say
person's
no.
free will.
Yeah, compliance. It's like they agree with this. That's why I don't vote. Is like silence is compliance. When you just sit by and do nothing, that is your consent. That's what they think.
And so there's also this other thing, which I had posted about in my Alien series, is that the question came up of how do grays um, do things without consent? And the guy who was on this thing, he worked for the German government and he worked with grays from Orion. And he asked them that question previously. And they basically say that since they're time travelers, they ask a future incarnation of yourself if they're allowed to abduct your past incarnation. So you might have not consented, but your future self that knows the whole picture of what is happening knows that it's okay for you to be abducted, a part of a bigger picture. So that's how they also get around free will. And that's how they get around it, is that basically they'll ask a later incarnation or you in a later time in your life. Because even if I think about it now, I had that alien encounter when I was younger. If they asked me now if they could have done that yet then with me at 5 years old, I'm like, well, of course you could do it at 5 years old, because now I know it's for sure true. So of course you could do it then. And then you see right there, this is where the consent, they
Yeah.
got it right here today.
Yeah. It is. It's because everything, it's like every relationship taught you what you didn't love, it taught you what you loved too. And even those relationships with your past and your memories. And we probably do sign up for them. Someone like, uh, some of these channelers or whatever that kind of get this information will say that those could be like upgrades, to our antenna, so we could still live within. Because some of us, it's a mismatch. It's like how the reptilians in them have to drink our blood to still stay in this level. I think some of us need to be tuned down a little bit. It's like I'm too conscious sometimes. I'm like, dude, I'm too conscious. I'm too awake. Tune me down. So I would probably say yes, just so I could live a normal childhood. You know what I mean? I'd want them to put a governor on me when I'm 16 so I don't break the speed limit and kill myself.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe in the upgrade thing too.
That
I
too.
do. I'm more, which is why I don't so much resonate with a lot of the fallen angel type of stuff, because I am more on the belief of that most aliens are positive, and also that most negative experiences are essentially a positive experience in the end. But I think that a lot of alien encounters, especially non-physical abductions especially, I feel like they are a lot of times healings,
Mhm.
upgrades, tunings. They're doing stuff, because I mean, everyone always thinks it's crazy that I'm like the type of person who like barely ever gets sick. I had a point in the third grade that I was literally sick for like almost the whole year, and then pretty much since then barely get sick. And LA is so toxic. I have so many friends that move here and then they get sick, their skin
Yeah.
breaks out, they like, because it's just like, obviously they're spraying all day, it's
Yeah.
toxic, the water's toxic. And I'm like very unaffected by a lot of those things. Like, I'm lucky I don't have any allergies and things like that. I don't really
Me
have any
neither.
sensitivities.
Me
And
neither.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens in the abduction. There's a
I
reason
know. But
why.
it's also, look at your consciousness though. I'm the same way. And when you're like that, it's like I don't have any allergies. You don't have any allergies. And when you're like, I'm not
Exactly.
sick, you're not sick. When you're scared, it's, you know, that the manifestation. When you say, I'm not sick, you're saying I'm sick, not what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
that vibration is in there that you're imprinting into reality. Where like you and I are like, look up, you see the chemtrails, but we also know they're only doing that because we're more powerful, that they
Mm-hmm.
are weaker. There's no weapon formed against us, I don't think, that can fuck with our soul. It's all a self-damnation. They try to
Exactly.
get us to sell our soul to the devil when we could repent. You can apparently murder somebody and then repent for it and be accepted by God. I don't know how that works. I'm not going to F with that. But I know that if you can't forgive yourself, God sure as shit can't forgive you.
It's true. It's definitely true. And I am definitely like a big believer in it because, you know, there's other people in my family who will believe that they are sensitive or sick or have a lot of allergies or a lot of issues, and they will. They constantly will.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really cute. Thanks for that gift. That was cute.
Yeah,
Um,
they do. It's just like the people who want to be unhappy are unhappy. The people who
it's
want to be
true.
a victim,
And this is why
they're
they're
a victim.
programming everyone to believe that they have ADD, that they have depression, that they have anxiety. And it's like everyone can feel those things in the moment that something is happening. But when you identify with, I have depression or I have anxiety, that's now an identity. How
It
could you
is.
ever get over it if you take it on as a part of who you are?
And
Which
that's
is why
trauma
I've never
bonding.
resenated with any diagnosis, you know?
Hmm.
There's
It's
times
trauma
doctors
bonding.
tried
They
to tell
want
me
you
I
to
have
label
stuff.
yourself something. They want you to self-diagnose your, you know, I don't like anything with the name die in it. Disease, like,
True.
you know, dimension, diagnose. It's all diet. They're all these
Interesting.
self-imposed
Wow.
restrictions to kill us in our concept of ourselves.
Wow. I never even thought of that too. Diet. Wow. Diagnosis.
People
Wow.
say like disclosure. Like, are we ever going to get disclosure? Like, dis-ease means you'll never be at ease, and disclosure, they're giving it to us right fucking now. We'll never get
Mm,
disclosure. It's all a mismatch of deception. When people
wow.
ask for it, give me disclosure, give
And
me
it's true. It's
closure,
like
dog, give me closure.
disclosure. People want the closure
Yes,
on the truth of whether
yes,
close the book. Tell us what it really
yes,
is.
but don't give me
Wow.
disclosure. You know, that's why it's called a discussion. It's because it's not decided.
Mm. And two, it's like dis and then like cuss, like cursing.
I know, yeah, because that's what we're
Wow.
doing. Where most people, when they're having a discussion, are putting curses, hexes on people through their vibrational imprints. It's
Mm,
Have you seen that Dr. Emoto water prayers and intentions in the water?
yes.
We're 70% water, right? So why wouldn't we? You know, that's what our fingerprint
And
is
that's how
a
I know it's a
snowflake.
freaking hologram because
Yeah,
if they say we're 70% water and we look and feel like this has to be a
crazy,
hologram
crazy.
because
Yeah,
I'm where's all the water? So that's what I feel like. It's definitely got to be a hologram because
I think
this.
water is the only thing alive in this dimension is when light or whatever, when God created the light and the logos and spoke over the living waters, it became us. And they say that like a couple grams of structured water can hold lifetimes of memory, more memory than a quantum
Mm,
computer can hold. And those
wow.
structured water is in our microtubules, which leaves and goes back into the collective atmosphere, atonement at 1 minute into the atmosphere when we die. And that's the weight loss when we die, is this
Mm,
structured water going back to source.
wow.
And you're
Crazy.
born in the waters of your mother's womb. I mean, it's just
Mm,
water is in everything here, lives on water.
crazy. So today I was reading, I forget, I think it was in the Ashayana Dean book, but maybe it was in the Prism of Lyra, but because I was taking them for, the series that I'm working on. But they talked about that the Anunnaki are the ones who made it salt water. They're the ones that it was actually there. It wasn't salt water. The entire planet was fresh water. And that over the course of 30 years, they slowly added little by little salt to the water so that they would be able to control their creation. Because basically it would be such a limited amount of water that was accessible to those people and that they wouldn't be able to drink most of it. And I'm like, it's interesting. It also reminded me of Mad Max, how like in the post-apocalyptic future, that's how they control people is through the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
and even now they control us through the water with the fluoride.
Yeah, they do that now with the water, and it's interesting. Even that whole thing, I'm gonna have to think about that tonight, because then it's like, all right, well, look at the creatures that can survive in salt water too. You know, that's a whole different environment. And I know that like the chemtrails are one aspect of it, but the boats and stuff that are out there dumping iron oxide in the water and creating red tide, they've been kimming the waters forever. I mean, that's so I've never really heard that. And I'm like, okay, I'm into that, because the Anunnaki, in my opinion, are also, they're behind all of the terraforming of this planet. The Anunnaki story says they left their world because they depleted their ozone or atmosphere, and they were trying to spray. They were mining gold for them to spray in their atmosphere. And when you type in Bill Gates to block the sun, he's using gold. We use gold in CERN. Gold, monoatomic gold, is edible. We can eat gold. It can lay at the bottom of salt water in the ocean. Is the only element that can stay there and never change, never rust, is gold. Pirates' gold can still be dug up right now. So there's something there with this salt water and gold, girl. I'm telling you.
And so it's interesting you bring that up, because Ashayana Dean, I told you, I'm trying to consume a lot of her information to see how I feel about it. And she was talking about that exact thing, about how the Anunnaki was taking gold, powdering it, and putting it into their atmosphere on their planet. Now, what's interesting is she said the equivalent, and she said if, the government could figure out how to do that here, they would be spraying Prozac in the thing. And that basically the effect that the gold has on the Anunnaki is the same effect that Prozac has on people. And I was like, that was also very interesting. So also it made me think about like Ormus, because, people use Ormus, and that's kind of like the same thing. If you get the pure Ormus, it's basically that. So I'm like, she says, don't use it. She's like, the Ormus will make you delusional over time, and it will like change parts of your brain to create delusions. I'm like,
same thing with silver, and same thing with mercury. Every metal that is tied to one of these gods, because gold is tied to, Apollo. He's tied to Yahweh, Jehovah. That Yahweh, Jehovah, Enlil, Apollo, those are all one son of Anu, of the Anunnaki. The other son is Enki. Enki is the chemistry, Kemet, in Egypt, all of that black magic, the serpent. The serpent versus the eagle. Eagle is gold. And, the snake, that's always usually like space, water, darkness, that type of shit. But I do think that Enlil is also who we consider El, and gold. That whole yellow gold. Same thing with the Targaryens, the Lannisters in Game of Thrones. They wanted the gold. It's still the currency. The Nazis, they needed all the gold. The Nazis were looking for gold. Why were they looking for gold? It's weird. It's something to do with gold.
And also, where is the gold all really going?
Where? It's like, I wonder where the blood is all going to. Is like, where's all the blood in the bodies going to? I don't know. A fossil fuel is clearly just, an abiotic kind of byproduct of compression and geology. But if it was fossil fuels, I would suspect that it's being made out of people by this point. You know what I mean? If it is carbon, and we're carbon, that's where the missing people go.
Wow.
And when you fuck up human trade, you get higher gas prices.
Wow. I mean, everything is connected. It's like, it doesn't end, but it's like, where do you stop? there's no stopping.
They're going to continue. Where do you see before? Like we've been talking for forever. I'll let you go. But what do you think is going to happen in the next year? And I know we'll talk again, obviously. But
Yeah.
where do you see us in a year? Like, what do you think?
So
And where do
I
you want to be? Where are you going to be also in that?
I personally think that everyone that's like doing the work on themselves, I feel like things are going to start falling into place. Like I feel it in myself. I feel it in like so many of the people that I know. I feel like the people that are willing to release the beliefs that they have and people that are willing to work on themselves and improve and heal and forgive, everything is going to come into place. And I feel like that's going to kind of be the divide between the new earth and the new world order. And that's like the 3D, 5D split that's happening. I feel like anyone who's like willing to do the work and raise their vibration and become healthier and work on their body, improve their mind, I feel like these people are going to be like stepping into everything they've ever wanted. And then the other people who are going to, believe all of this stuff, keep fighting, keep being divisive, they're going to decline. And, things are going to get worse for them. And that's just really manifestation, So I feel like everyone's manifestations are going to be heightened. So if you're manifesting, this world is terrible, it's the worst ever, everything's so bad, it's going to get worse. And then the people who go in the opposite direction are going to be like, wow, my dreams are coming true so easily. So that's my prediction.
So where are you
going
going?
to
What are you doing with that the next year?
Oh, I mean, I feel like everything's coming together and I'm getting closer to creating, I mean, not in the next year, but in the next couple years to creating my off the grid community, which is going to be the beginning of the new earth.
Yeah, I love that.
And what about you?
You know, I will say that, well, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that one thing is for certain is that the plan is to make every position you hold untenable. And we need to let go of these things, the things that we think make us, the things that we think are us. They're just aspects of ourselves. And whether that's your sexual identity, your gender identity, your political identity, your religious identity, eventually they will attack those, your body autonomy, make it so ridiculous that you can't hold these positions anymore. I do believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, you will have more political atheists, and I don't mean that atheist in any religious term. You'll have way more spiritualists, far less people that consider themselves Republican, Democrat, Christian, Catholic. You'll have a lot more of us, a lot more of these. We've let go of all of these chains that we decided to put on us. And when you realize that, I think your life becomes a lot lighter. And one, thank you for talking with me for 2 hours. And
I know this was great. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
I am going to upload it to YouTube. I might take out some of the parts about the jab just because.
No, don't trigger the Shotsies.
Because, also YouTube is crazy strict with that one. They're more strict than TikTok with that.
And I think we're in the end game. Like when I reached out to Max, you're one of them, like you're on the Avengers. We're in the end game now. And the more people realize that you're in a fight and it is up to you to manifest this new earth and build that community, truly, like, and I have the same dreams. All of us.
And that's how I know it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Because everything starts with a thought.
Yes.
And we're all secretly thinking it.
Yeah, I'm the 100th monkey because there's once enough of us think it, it's here. It's already manifested. I agree with you. But now we just got to usher it in. We got to usher it in with our words and our actions and, stick together. And like I was telling the people here before you got on, I'm like, you're so cool because you've done the work. You're not threatened by anybody. You know that, you know what humanity is and you know your intentions, and that if your intentions are possible, Mine are too. You know, like there's good
Exactly.
people out here for truth that aren't bot shills. Like we could be done with those people. We don't have to do what they did. We don't have to vote on lesser evil.
Exactly. And it's like all of this, like us coming together, you know, there's like on my end, there's like almost like 500 people here. It's like, this is like rippling out every single thing that we're doing to like raise people. It's like, it's always rippling out. And then all of those people are raising people in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Absolutely. And we look, I appreciate everybody who was watching. And if I triggered you guys, I'm sorry. You know, if you're a dude, I'll try not to be as handsome next time for you. And maybe that'll make it a little easier to swallow the medicine. But haters are going to hate. I know
Well,
you
this
get
was
that a
great.
lot.
This was great. Yes, everyone had such a good time. Look, they love it.
Yeah, look,
One of the guys
people
on
over
this
here
said,
are
"You
like,
are
listen,
handsome, bro."
well, and both people over here are like, yo, she's hot. Like, that's what I tell people all the time in my live stream last night. I'm like, do you get it yet? Like, the girls that are on the side of good are gorgeous. They shine. They're different. You're warm. You're feminine. And wake up, dudes. Wake up, dudes. It's time to freaking put on your armor and become the knights like we were raised to be. And you guys aren't damsels. You're fucking princesses. You're warriors too. You've been had your own little Disney mythology, and you guys are strong too. And it's time to stop being fans and only fans for women, and be equals
Mhm.
and
True.
protectors, husbands, all that type of shit.
And
Because
exactly, both sides embracing the whole, you know, women embracing the masculine qualities and men embracing the feminine qualities, because it's like these guys that are so like macho, it's
no,
phasing out, because you really can only attract someone who is only embodying that damsel.
which is the
And
twin flame. It's when I am so polarized in one way, I can only have a counterpart in somebody else. Where you and I, we're going to meet an equal or have an equal because the both of those are balanced within inside of ourselves, and that's why those my like the sharp edges of a masculine sword are sheathed in
mm,
a protective covering, because you don't have to be a weapon all the time. Not everything
true.
has to be a nail to these men. And like, I don't want you to ever debate me on the 6 inches per mile squared on flat earth. That's, you know, your women are nurturers. You guys are the ones like mother, that eternal love and giveness. Like, I don't care what we're on. What are we doing while we're on it? That's like the feminine aspect, is like, whatever we're on, let's make the best of it
It's true.
and take care of it.
And exactly, men, I think, are stepping into one of the things it says in the Pleiadian books, where they talk about that women have had this really long process, this really long struggle of finding their power. But they said that once the women find their power, it's going to be very quickly for the men to adjust, because
Mm-hmm.
the women, you know, they're the mothers, they're the real teachers. So they say that once the women really find their true power, not mimicking masculine qualities, not mimicking toxic masculinity,
Yes.
which is the point that they're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when they find their true power, they say that it's going to be very quick for men to click into that place. And I was like, you
Women,
know what? I believe that.
yeah, women's power. The longest dynasties are monarchies, like the archons. They're monarchies. It's a woman overseeing the archons. It's the
Mm,
queen. It's Cleopatra. It's because women build communities and men protect communities. You know, we're not supposed to be the
mm,
ones. We're so order and structure that we're supposed to be the lawmen. You know, we're the sheriffs, but we shouldn't be writing the laws. Otherwise, this Roe v. Wade type shit happens, because to me, it's black or it's white, baby. I don't give a
uh-huh.
shit what it is. I will never play along with evil, and men are bad like that. Like, I'm pro life. If you gave me the choice, pro life, not a good thing, and I understand that. So I don't want that choice.
Exactly, because
But
we can't make choices for other people. You never
and
know
women
what
are
anyone's
naturally
choice needs
better
to
at
be.
that. You naturally know that. You naturally know, because most women don't get through life by domination. All men,
Mhm.
the men that are the leaders, unfortunately, that's why they become divorced and womenizers and shit, is because they lead and they are enforcers. They force their will on the world, where women know that that's not how you achieve things. Behind every Alexander the Great was a mother who was really
Mm.
pulling the strings. And the Alexander the Great dies. They eventually fizzle out.
And this is
So
why all of the stories, all of the biblical stories, either strip the woman, strip the mom. All the Disney stories kill the mom or don't have a mom. It's like all of these like archetypes have removed the mom from the story, which is like it's kind of needed. And I mean,
because there would
moms are the
never
best.
be original sin with a mother God. There would never be damnation with a mother God. But with a father God, there is. My children, I'm the sissiest. I will cry on a commercial, but they're afraid of me because I'm a dude, and I've yelled at a other dude before in front of them. You know, like men are a wrathful, loving God. Woman would be like, dude, I don't care what you guys do. I love you. You're my children. You're great at it. You're great, Lucifer. I love you. Like, they wouldn't care, you know.
I know
Mothers,
it's true. I'm like, well, you know, Lucifer's kind
I
of
see the
stuck
good in
because of
him.
what people are doing to him.
Yeah, you're like, if you're like that mom with Putin, like, if Lucifer had a mother like me, he would have never fallen from heaven.
It's
If
true.
Lucifer was my son. Yeah.
It's so true.
Where guys are like, you're out, dude. You do one thing. The guys are the ones who leave the comments like, I was with you until you said that, and I'm out. Black or white. It's the way it is, I guess.
So funny. Well, this was so good. I'm so glad we did this. I'm going to
Me
upload
too.
it on YouTube. I said I might take out a little bit of the beginning just because I don't want to get my YouTube channel banned. But
I know.
I'm glad for all of you people that were here that got to experience it firsthand.
Yes, me too. Thank you for having me. Text me. Send me the
I
link for the
will.
YouTube video. So I'll
Okay, and I'm going to send you that PDF to the Fritz Springmeier book too.
yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah, I have a whole little archive too of like 200 of those books too, like a little treasure trove of those esoteric books. I could send you a
Oh yeah,
Dropbox
send me
too.
some.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
going to
on
be
to
good.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's love, baby. Sharing knowledge. That's love, man.
Well, thanks so much. Bye, Jake. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
See ya.
Thank
Guys, thank
you.
you. See ya. Bye.